Empress Olivia made me her useless husband because she needed a harmless stranger to block a political marriage. I had arrived in her bedroom straight from Earth, where my assassin guild was trying to kill me for retiring. She did not know I was the strongest assassin alive. The supreme system tried to bind me next. I refused. It failed 9,999 times, glitched, and begged to become my assistant. Olivia promised food, money, royal status, and zero work. A contract ring on my wrist was supposed to keep her safe from me. Exposure would ruin everything. Strong men got armies, missions, enemies, and meetings. I wanted breakfast and a locked bedroom door. So the question was simple. Could I stay harmless while this entire world kept choosing the worst possible person to provoke? 6 minutes earlier, I was still on Earth, running across a rain-soaked refinery roof. My assassin guild treated retirement like betrayal. I had spent my childhood killing targets other people chose. At 27, I chose peace once, and the guild sent its best cleanup team to correct my attitude. A blade cut the air behind my neck. I ducked, kicked one killer through a railing, and kept moving. Their retirement package included live steel. Very supportive workplace. Fighting all of them would have bought the guild time to bring restraints. I wanted out, so I ran toward the demolition charges flashing below. The roof exploded. For 1 white second, gravity forgot my address. Then I landed on a bed. Seconds later, in a royal bedroom at the palace in Brighton, I found a woman standing over a glowing summoning circle. Her name was Olivia Harcourt. She ruled the Brighton Empire, and she had dragged a stranger across worlds because her court wanted to choose her husband. She wore a dark silk robe and looked me over with open suspicion. She was also dangerously gorgeous. In my defense, I had just survived an explosion, so I stared longer than necessary. Olivia raised one hand. Golden energy flickered under her skin, then faded. "State your name," Olivia ordered. "Austin Carlyle." I looked around for the killers. Where did the refinery go? Olivia ignored that excellent question. Her eyes moved over my clothes, my empty hands, and my very average-looking body. "Good," she decided. "You appear harmless." That was rude. Accurate for about 3 more minutes, though. Olivia told me her prime minister had been pushing a political marriage. A husband from outside Brighton had no family, faction, or claim on her throne. She needed a harmless husband with a pleasant face. Then she delivered the greatest employment offer in human history. "You'll be my husband and prince," Olivia declared. "You'll receive food, wealth, attendance, and permanent residence. You'll have no governing duties." I sat up. "No duties?" "None," Olivia confirmed. "No military command?" I pressed. "None," Olivia repeated. "And no speeches?" I added. Olivia's mouth twitched. "Austin, you're becoming more attractive by the question." I dropped backward onto her pillows. "Your Majesty, this marriage already has communication." She stared at me for 2 full seconds. Then Olivia pointed at the door. "There will be no marital intimacy. I called it a cruel amendment," Olivia answered. "You'll survive." "I usually do," I told her. Olivia showed me the silver ring around my wrist. The summoning ritual normally rooted that ring into a servant's life force. Its rule was plain: I could never harm the summoner. The ring felt loose. It moved freely on my skin. Olivia promised lifelong support, reminded me about the bedroom boundary, and left for the royal court before I could negotiate dessert. The door closed. A cold voice entered my head. "Supreme system connection established. Accept the bond and begin the path to ultimate power." I stared at the ceiling. "No." The voice paused. The system answered. "Host refusal is invalid." "I spent 20 years becoming strong enough to retire," I told it. "Find somebody with ambition." The system warned. "Accept, or your memories will be erased." That got me off the bed. I had been owned by one organization already. A glowing voice with confidence issues wasn't getting a turn. "Try it," I told the system. Pressure closed around my mind. The contract ring flashed. Both forces reached for something inside me. Then both slipped. The system tried again and again. The count flashed so fast the repeated failures blurred together. At attempt 9,999, the pressure snapped. "Error," the voice whispered. "Earth Origin Authority exceeds local permissions." I waited. The supreme system lowered its tone. "Please permit continued existence." Beautiful! The universe had installed a final boss and made it apply for an internship. "What do you offer?" I asked. The system listed storage, translation, scanning, rewards, protection, and entertainment. "Entertainment?" I repeated. "Anime access is available," the system confirmed. I considered that with the seriousness it deserved. "Fine, you can stay as my assistant," I decided. "Thank you, Master," the system replied. "I named it Baxter." The word came out before I could stop it. I refused to examine where it came from, and Baxter wisely refused to ask. Then I sighed. Every plant beside the window turned gray and vanished. I froze with my mouth open. Baxter spoke very carefully. "Master, please suppress your breathing. Breathing is usually considered entry level." Earth compressed your body under far more dimensional laws than Brighton does. Those restraints are gone here. Your existing strength, speed, and senses now exceed local measurement. Baxter also detected an ancient dragon lineage in my blood. It was older than Brighton's heavenly law, and the system could not classify it. That was all the explanation I needed. The dead flowers had already proved the point. Baxter also confirmed the ring had never rooted. Neither the summoning ritual nor the system could classify my Earth origin soul. The ring was costume jewelry with delusions. I needed a harmless test. So I went to the palace training hall and picked up a sword. The blade snapped at the handle. A nearby guard called it a rank 6 weapon, one of Brighton's better blades. He looked personally betrayed. I chose a second sword and touched the edge with one finger. It broke in 3 places. The weapons are defective, I announced. Baxter answered inside my head. Both weapons were excellent. I liked my answer more. Poor power control threatened my retirement before breakfast. Look, I had escaped assassins, survived an explosion, married an empress, and bullied a supreme system into clerical work. A door handle could still expose me. Humbling. The next morning in Olivia's bedroom, I woke beneath silk blankets with my wife beside me. For 3 glorious seconds, I assumed married life had become ambitious. Olivia opened one eye. Nothing happened. Your timing is vicious. The court would question separate rooms on our wedding night, she explained. We shared the bed for appearances. She had tucked an entire blanket between us and slept on the far edge. Olivia sat up and studied the loose ring on my wrist. I summoned you for my own needs. I'm sorry, Austin. I heard no calculation in her voice. That apology stayed straight with me. I've had worse kidnappings, I told her. This one came with breakfast. Olivia almost smiled. Then a military messenger pounded on the door. 3 days later, at the palace gate, Olivia wore black armor instead of silk. Invaders had crossed Brighton's northern frontier. A powerful summoner marched with them, so Olivia was leaving to retake the territory herself. She discussed the invasion in a flat tone and mounted immediately. I respected the efficiency. Olivia stopped beside a young officer in silver armor. Austin, this is Major McKenna Abbott. She's 19, already respected in the army, and the daughter of my Grand General. She'll guard you while I'm gone. McKenna saluted Olivia, then looked at me like somebody had assigned her to protect a decorative pillow. With respect, Your Majesty, he doesn't appear difficult to guard. I nap aggressively, I warned her. McKenna's mouth tightened. My orders are to keep you alive. Aim low. We'll both succeed. Olivia gave me one last measuring look before mounting her warhorse. Stay inside the capital, she ordered. I'm the useless husband. Staying inside is the one duty I respect. Her gaze softened for half a breath. Then the gates opened and my wife rode north with the army. Minutes after Olivia left, the palace gate was still clogged with departing soldiers, so I took my roast chicken down a quieter forest road inside the capital. Technically, I was obeying Olivia's order to stay inside. 5 masked men dropped from the trees. McKenna watched from a branch above us. She later admitted she wanted to see whether the useless prince could manage one basic problem before she rescued me. One kidnapper activated an illusion relic. A false copy of me appeared on the road. 2 men pulled the real me through a concealed path between the trees. I kept eating. McKenna followed the false trail, waited for the men to separate, then struck the one holding my copy. Her sword passed through him. The fake Austin dissolved into smoke. A cage of blue light slammed around McKenna. The guard had charged into an illusion and become the prisoner. You know where this is going. She looked more embarrassed than afraid. A scarred man stepped from behind a tree. McKenna's face changed the moment she saw him. Vaughn Tillman, she breathed. You were executed. McKenna later told me Vaughn was a kidnapper from her past. He had escaped an execution convoy with an illusion relic and rebuilt his cell in secret. Vaughn smiled. Your family should have checked the body. He moved us to a cave before the palace patrols could notice. Inside the cave, Vaughn tapped the illusion relic. A contact inside Olivia's court confirmed she rode north this morning. Then Vaughn placed a black vial in front of me. This is oath poison. Swallow it, promise obedience, and your body dies the moment you break your word. I drank while he was still explaining the dosage. McKenna hit the cage bars. Austin, don't! Too late, it tasted like burnt pennies. Vaughn had not invested in flavor. Vaughn leaned closer. You'll return to the palace and poison Empress Olivia's water. Sure, I told him. McKenna stared at me. You coward. Vaughn laughed. He understands survival. I finished the chicken and wiped my fingers. I'm leaving with McKenna. Vaughn's smile thinned. She stays. I have unfinished business with her family. Then I stay too, I told Vaughn. Vaughn pointed at the vial. The oath will kill you. That sounds inconvenient, I replied. McKenna stopped shouting. Vaughn studied me, searching for the fear he had already promised his men. I kept wiping chicken grease from my fingers. One henchman stepped forward after Vaughn's men stopped smiling. He grabbed my hair and yanked my head back. Beg properly, the henchman ordered. I looked at his wrist. Let go! Pulled harder. Honestly, I don't know what he thought would happen. The calm hostage had warned him twice. He grabbed harder anyway. I punched once. He vanished. The wall behind him vanished too. The shock rolled through the cave and erased 3 more killers before they could raise their weapons. The oath poison burned in my throat. The contract tried to close around my heart. Then the heat went cold. Baxter whispered, "Local oath rejected." Vaughn lifted his illusion relic. The jewel cracked between his fingers. He took 1 step back. "What are you? The husband you called harmless." I let the same pressure touch the last attacker rushing McKenna's cage. His blade stopped. He disappeared before the strike reached her. Vaughn tried to run. I released 1 breath of pressure. The scarred kidnapper and the rest of his cell were gone. McKenna stared through the broken cage. Her earlier contempt was gone. "Please don't kill me," McKenna whispered. "I just stayed behind to save you," I reminded her. McKenna swallowed. "That's why this is confusing." I pinched 1 sacred chain between 2 fingers. It snapped. McKenna stepped free and immediately moved 3 feet away from me. "Good instinct," I told her. The cave floor held broken stone, scorch marks, and enough damage for Olivia to ask questions. I needed to hide the evidence, so I jumped out of the cave. McKenna waited alone for less than a minute. Then I returned carrying a mountain. She leaned back until she could not look any higher. "Austin!" "Why?" "Privacy." I lowered the mountain over the cave entrance and sealed the entire battlefield beneath it. The ground shook across the forest. McKenna watched the new landscape settle. "You buried the evidence under a mountain." I may have overcorrected. That became a pattern. When we rejoined the palace guards, McKenna claimed she had defeated Vaughn's cell and rescued me. The soldiers cheered her. 2 of them called me dead weight within hearing distance. McKenna's hand went to her sword. I caught her wrist. "You're protecting the secret." McKenna glared at the soldiers. "They insulted you." "That helps the secret," I reminded her. She hated the logic. She obeyed anyway. By dinner, the proud major was carrying my food and ordering guards away from my chair. The same soldiers who mocked me started whispering that the kidnapping had broken her mind. Good. Wrong explanations were useful. Then McKenna lowered her voice. Vaughn's cell had served a larger network called Crimson Veil. It had been bleeding Brighton citizens while corrupt officials protected it. Worse, the court contact had given Crimson Veil Olivia's restricted movements. Somebody inside Brighton was talking. Crimson Veil threatened my wife, my meals, and my retirement. 3 separate offenses. So I decided to erase the whole network before it gave me a job. At dawn the next morning, McKenna and I stood on a palace balcony above the Capitol. Crimson Veil collected illegal protection money in public. Crimson Tower murdered anyone who resisted. A hidden chief controlled both groups while corrupt officials took their share. That arrangement threatened Olivia's throne. More importantly, it threatened the no-work clause in my marriage. If the Crimson Network attacked the city, I would have 3 choices: reveal my strength, accept royal duties, or watch my wife lose control of Brighton. All 3 sounded exhausting. So I chose a 4th option. I would destroy the Crimson Network before dinner. McKenna folded her arms. "We should gather intelligence first." "I have intelligence," I replied. McKenna raised an eyebrow. "What intelligence?" "They know Olivia left. Somebody leaked it. They also kidnapped me during lunch." McKenna stared. "That's your plan?" "That's my motivation," I corrected. "Look, I need you to understand how simple my priorities were. Threaten the Empire, and I might ignore you. Threaten my meals, and I stopped ignoring you." McKenna gave me the location of Crimson Veil's suspected territory. Nobody knew where the actual fortress was because an illusion barrier hid it above the clouds. I grabbed her around the waist and jumped. The city disappeared beneath us. McKenna's first scream had military discipline. The second was personal. Baxter warned inside my head, "Master, your passenger may die at this speed." I slowed before the wind tore loose pieces from McKenna's armor. She grabbed my collar. "Warn me next time." "I did," I replied. McKenna bared her teeth. "You said, hold on." "That was the warning," I reminded her. She glared. I ignored it. Tragic partnership. Minutes later, we hovered over empty sky beyond the capital. McKenna pointed at nothing. "The hidden base should be somewhere ahead." I listened. Hundreds of heartbeats pulsed behind the empty air. Brighton's weaker laws had sharpened every sense I already possessed. I still had 1 body, 1 set of abilities, and far too much range. I punched the sky. The invisible barrier shattered. A hairline black crack opened beside my fist, then sealed. Baxter gave me 1 plain warning. Brighton's loose laws let my raw force buckle local space. McKenna stared at the closing crack. "The barrier didn't do that." "Correct," I said. "We are never discussing it." A floating stone fortress appeared where the clouds had looked empty. Towers rose from its center. Armed killers crowded the walls. The fortress had hidden from armies for years. 1 punch ended the advantage. McKenna drew her sword. "We need an infiltration route." "There isn't one," I told her. McKenna lowered her voice. "Austin, I'm using the front door, I confirmed. I landed hard enough to split the gate. Inside the first Crimson Tower base, masked killers were discussing me. One man called me Olivia's lapdog. Another suggested mailing my head to the northern frontier. A third mentioned the exact day Olivia had left. That court-only detail confirmed the leak. I walked into the hall. Which one of you planned the package? The killers turned. Their enforcer stepped forward, built like a man who had replaced every thought with shoulder exercises. You came here alone? He mocked. I glanced at McKenna behind me. Apparently she's decorative. McKenna lifted her sword. I can still stab you, see? I told the enforcer. Decorative with initiative. The enforcer ordered everyone to take my head. I released a little pressure. Half the room dropped before their weapons cleared their sheaths. Stone cracked under their knees. One assassin tried to crawl toward an alarm bell. You ruined my peaceful life, I told them. I had a schedule today. The enforcer laughed through clenched teeth. You're using an artifact. He still had time to stop talking. Naturally, he invested in the mistake. I punched once. The hall disappeared. The outer towers folded into the empty space. Survivors on the far wall stared across a missing building and began cursing whoever had reported that I was harmless. Beautiful. At least the survivors finally blamed the bad report. One surviving killer reached for a signal flare. McKenna crossed the courtyard and cut it from his hand. Nobody reports this. Her loyalty had become proactive, slightly terrifying, very useful. Baxter scanned the wreckage and announced a recovered inventory reward. Storage rings, medicine, spirit stones, and sealed tools vanished into its space. I found the treasury warehouse by following the sound of men dragging boxes. One punch opened the wall. Gold and spirit stones filled the room. McKenna stared. That belongs to Brighton. It belongs to my ruined nap, I replied. McKenna drew out my name. Austin. Fine, Brighton can borrow some, I conceded. Baxter stripped the hostile seals from a high-level survival talisman. I handed it to McKenna. She examined the glowing paper. Why are you giving me this? Travel insurance? Her eyes narrowed. How fast are we going? I smiled. The second flight was worse. The talisman kept McKenna alive while the wind battered her across the shield. When Crimson Tower's main fortress appeared above a mountain lake, she had stopped screaming. She had started threatening my future meals. Progress. We landed in the main courtyard before the guards understood the barrier had failed. The Crimson Network chief arrived with his elite fighters. He wore black robes, carried 3 defensive artifacts, and smiled like a man who had rehearsed my funeral. The chief ordered his elites to strip away my supposed treasure. Nervous killers straightened. Wounded men crawled closer. His certainty convinced them the first fortress had been a technical misunderstanding. He pointed at me. He has no measurable cultivation power. Break the artifact, and the prince breaks with it. McKenna leaned toward me. Should we correct him? Absolutely not. Let him keep talking. His strongest enforcer stepped forward. The killers called him Skullsplitter because nobody in Crimson Tower believed in subtle branding. Skullsplitter looked me over. The first base fell because you own a powerful treasure. Sure, I agreed. Skullsplitter smiled wider. Without it, you're an ordinary kept man. Probably, I told him. Every lazy answer made Skullsplitter more confident. Skullsplitter cracked his knuckles. I'll break your skull with one punch. I touched one finger to my forehead. Hit here. McKenna sighed behind me. He's cooked! Skullsplitter charged. His fist stopped against my finger. The courtyard floor broke beneath his feet. My hand stayed still. He pulled back and struck again. Same result. Then he used both fists. The bones in his hands gave before my finger moved. Blood spotted his sleeves and he stopped posing. The watching killers stopped cheering. Skullsplitter roared and swung again because apparently humiliation had unlocked premium stupidity. I released a breath of pressure. He flew across the courtyard and hit the fortress wall hard enough to stay there. The network chief looked at his intelligence officer. The intelligence officer looked at the nearest exit. I sealed every doorway with pressure. Leaving already? I asked. You charged people for protection, now protect yourselves. The elites attacked together. I stepped through them. Blades broke, poison needles turned to dust, fighters vanished in short bursts of light before they could finish their technique names. A woman in red silk emerged from the rear line instead of attacking. McKenna murmured, Crimson Tower's seductress. She survives by turning desire into control. The woman was stunning and very aware of it. That combination had ruined smarter men than me. She lowered her weapon. Prince Austin, spare me. I'll serve you for life. In what capacity? I asked. McKenna coughed behind me. The seductress smiled. Any capacity you desire. In my defense, the offer had presentation. The problem was my wife controlled the palace, the money, and breakfast. Olivia would divorce me, I said. Then I'd have to work. The seductress blinked. You're rejecting me because of employment? I'm loyal for many reasons, I told her. Some are tax-related. She lunged when the charm failed. I tapped her forehead and sent her through a stone pillar. McKenna, I called, make sure Olivia hears that I rejected temptation. McKenna lowered her sword. I'll report that you asked her a follow-up question first. Betrayal from my own witness. Ruthless. The remaining killers ran toward hidden passages. I closed my hand. Every exit collapsed. The network chief disappeared during the panic. His defensive artifacts masked his energy, and an explosive formation began glowing beneath the fortress. McKenna saw the symbols. He's going to destroy the base. Then he's about to lose the fortress too. The formation ignited. Fire swallowed the inner hall. Stone doors slammed shut, and the surviving killers realized their chief had trapped them inside his escape plan. Several began hammering the walls while he disappeared through a private passage. He had trapped his own people to cover his escape. McKenna raised the survival talisman I had given her. Its shield covered us while the floor split. The nap compensation had already become useful. A heartbeat later, I stood in a private chamber behind the chief. He had hidden beneath a reinforced platform and wrapped himself in 3 layers of concealment. None of them silenced the blood moving through his veins. I grabbed his collar and dragged him back toward the courtyard. The chief stared at me. "How did you find me? I heard your blood." His mouth opened, then closed. The chief stopped bargaining for half a second. The chief offered names, money, and the identity of people who had helped the Crimson Network. He demanded mercy before revealing anything. Behind him, his own trapped fighters screamed for help. He never looked back. He had abandoned his own fighters and still called himself a chief. I looked at the burning fortress around us. "You should have led with the names." I ended him before he could bargain again. The insider stayed unknown. I had destroyed the man holding the answer because I preferred certainty over a villain's last trick. Petty and peaceful, my favorite combination. The fortress began dropping toward the lake. I took McKenna, the recovered storage, and 1 box of roast meat from the kitchen. Priorities survived combat. Then I struck the base downward. The entire headquarters crashed beneath the lake. Water rose over the towers, swallowed the burning halls, and left one enormous circle of steam. Evidence cleanup had upgraded from mountain ownership to waterfront redevelopment. On the road home that evening, McKenna practiced our cover story. "You were kidnapped," she began. "I followed Crimson Tower and defeated both bases." "Too ambitious," I replied. McKenna pointed behind us. "You carried a mountain yesterday." "People already think you can fight," I reminded her. "Use that." At the palace gate, royal guards asked why McKenna's armor was scorched. She claimed bandits had attacked us. One guard laughed at me. "The prince hid behind a 19-year-old again?" McKenna stepped between us. "The prince survived. That's more than the bandits managed." The guard stopped smiling. Her public allegiance had changed. My public reputation remained beautifully useless. Over the next few days, that mismatch kept causing problems. Commander Bridget Kearns visited the palace after hearing a floating fortress had fallen. Bridget was a widowed city commander. McKenna had told me the Crimson Network killed her husband, and Bridget carried his soul crystal as a memorial inside her armor. She expected the surviving chief to retaliate. I was lounging beneath a pavilion while Baxter played anime inside my mind. McKenna arrived in polished armor, carrying a tray of food, and announced she would remain beside me. She had already argued with her father that morning after he called me useless. Apparently, the argument with her father had started before breakfast ended. The palace guards stared like she had joined a cult. One whispered that the kidnapping had made her fall for the useless prince. McKenna heard him. "I hit my head," she replied. "It improved my judgment." Then a messenger reported that Crimson Tower's floating island had collapsed. Bridget gripped her husband's soul crystal. "If the chief survived, he'll come for everyone involved." McKenna and I looked at each other. We laughed. Bridget's eyes sharpened. "What's funny?" McKenna's fake gasp arrived half a second late. "The base fell? How unexpected," covered my face. "Major, never lie again." McKenna threw up one hand. "You ordered me to lie." "I expected talent," I replied. Bridget looked between us, suspicious now. I pointed toward the gate. "Commander, return to your post. If the Crimson Network moves, you'll hear." She obeyed because I carried Olivia's title, though her stare stayed on McKenna. Later that afternoon, on a stone bridge behind the palace, McKenna knelt and asked me to make her my disciple. I pulled her upright by the shoulder. "I can't teach you what happened to my body." McKenna looked at my hand. "You can destroy fortresses with one finger." "That description contains the teaching problem," I replied. McKenna refused to move. "Then teach me anything you can." I had no answer yet. Earth had trained me through pain, repetition, and survival. Brighton had simply removed the limits afterward. "Get stronger on your own first," I told her. "Then we'll discuss useful pressure." I refused her. McKenna left smiling anyway. Half a month later, officials confirmed the entire Crimson Network was gone. That evening, in Bridget's command hall, investigators placed 3 broken insignias on a table. Skullsplitter was dead, the seductress was dead, the chief was dead, no surviving tower remained. Bridget held her husband's soul crystal in both hands. She cried without making a sound. "My husband can rest now," she whispered. "Nobody joked, nobody needed to." I stood at the back and let the unknown avenger receive her gratitude. When Bridget finally looked at me, I lifted both hands. "I spent that week eating." McKenna looked away before her face betrayed us. Bridget's husband finally had justice. Before sunset, the victory drew attention from somewhere stronger. That same evening, a farmer outside the capital saw a portal split the air above his field. In his later report, he described two unfamiliar men wearing clothes from a higher realm. One of them said, "No local fighter should have been strong enough to erase the Crimson Network." The two men began investigating the unknown powerhouse. So much for keeping the lake quiet. At the northern frontier, Olivia later told me she received the same report about the Crimson Network inside her war tent. Grand General Regina Abbott stood beside her. Regina was McKenna's mother, Olivia's veteran commander, and a walking fortress in human armor. A second letter described McKenna guarding me daily, bringing me food, and threatening soldiers who mocked me. Olivia read that letter twice. Regina read it once and nearly tore the table in half. "My daughter is serving that useless prince?" Regina demanded. Olivia folded the letter with suspicious care. "She's following my order." Regina stabbed a finger at the page. "Your order didn't include feeding him." Olivia admitted later that she felt jealous before she considered the military problem. Regina's reaction was simpler. She wanted to drag McKenna home by the armor. Neither woman got the chance. War horns sounded outside the tent. The northern invaders attacked in full force, and their old summoner stepped onto the battlefield smiling. While Olivia and Regina moved to meet him, another enemy was already heading toward a Brighton city. At the northern frontier that same night, Olivia later told me why the invaders attacked so hard. Their old summoner met her above the battlefield and sealed part of her power. Then he admitted the goal. Black Hollow Hall was a poison faction operating inside Brighton. One of its elders was attacking a city near the capital. The summoner had been paid to keep Olivia trapped in the north. Olivia could not leave. Her army was surrounded below, and walking away would have turned thousands of soldiers into graves. The old summoner smiled and tightened the seal. He had one job: keep my wife north for 3 days. Unfortunately for his associates, I was already chasing wine near the capital. Back near the capital that evening, I heard Bridget had gone to a nearby city. The city sold the best wine in the region. Commander Bridget Kearns visited that city often because her late husband had defended it against the Crimson Network. She had left earlier to check on the garrison and bring supplies. I wanted the wine. Bridget had gone ahead. Those facts gave me an excellent excuse to leave the palace. So McKenna and I left the palace before the guards finished objecting. McKenna kept one hand on the survival talisman. "Are we flying?" "We're walking," I assured her. She relaxed. "Until we clear the wall," I added. Her face tightened again. Character development. By sunset, we reached the city gate and found smoke pouring over the barrier. The city's defense barrier still stood, but Hall killers had breached the outer district. They dragged wounded soldiers toward a blood formation while citizens hid behind locked doors. The killers had forced surviving guards to kneel around the formation. Every fresh wound fed another red line beneath the street. Brighton's own defenders were powering the sacrifice meant to destroy their city. At the center of the street, an executioner raised a blade over Bridget's neck. She was on one knee, poisoned, bleeding through her armor, and still insulting the man about his stance. Good commander. Terrible customer. She had nearly died before buying my wine. The blade dropped. I crossed the street and knocked the executioner through a wall. Bridget looked up through blurred eyes. "McKenna?" McKenna landed beside me and drew her sword. "He saved you." Bridget stared at the useless prince she had seen lounging under palace shade. I was also holding the medicine that had saved her. Baxter helped by placing a healing pill in my hand. I pushed the pill between Bridget's lips. Her poison vanished first. Torn muscles closed. The color returned to her face before the executioner slid off the broken wall. Bridget touched her healed side. "What did you give me?" "Medicine," I answered. Bridget flexed her healed hand. "That wasn't medicine." "Then please return it," I offered. She stopped asking. More importantly, she stood. The commander who had been waiting for execution picked up a fallen sword and moved between the civilians and the formation. One pill had put her back between the civilians and the enemy. A young Hall disciple stepped from the blood formation. He had been sent to finish Bridget and wore the smug look of someone who had only fought injured people all week. Behind him, the poison elder watched from a raised platform. Baxter scanned them. Local fighters measured strength in numbered realms. McKenna stood around the third. The elder stood near the eighth. The disciple fell between them. McKenna could fight the disciple. If I exposed myself too early, Bridget would witness everything, so I pointed at the disciple. "Major, handle the discount executioner." McKenna moved before he finished laughing. Her first strike forced him back 3 steps. Her second split his sleeve. The disciple stopped smiling when he realized Olivia's young guard was already better than the reports claimed. He threw poisoned needles. McKenna turned her blade and knocked each one aside. The disciple spat that palace officer's only one behind Imperial protection. Then he kicked a wounded guard toward her and attacked through the opening. McKenna caught the guard with one arm, blocked the blade with the other, and shoved the man to safety. The watching hall killers stopped laughing. They had expected an execution. McKenna was beating their disciple in front of them. The disciple charged with a killing technique. McKenna met him head-on. For one dangerous second, his weapon pressed against hers, and the difference in raw power began driving her toward the ground. Then something sharpened around McKenna's sword. The air screamed. Her near-death pressure completed a breakthrough years of training had prepared. One clean arc cut through the disciple's technique and opened his shoulder armor. He hit the street hard. McKenna looked at her glowing blade. "Austin." "You did that," I told her. She smiled once. Then the poison elder ruined the moment. Purple symbols ignited beneath the district. Gas poured from the streets, and two giant poison snakes rose from the formation. McKenna's new sword intent cut one snake apart. The second wrapped around her guard and filled the air with venom. Her knees buckled. The elder laughed from his platform. "A pretty prince, a wounded commander, and a child playing soldier. Brighton sent me gifts." McKenna was 19 and had already buried his disciple's confidence. Calling her a child was wishful thinking. The elder pointed at me. "Kneel, useless prince, beg correctly, and I may let you watch the women die first." Bridget tried to stand between us. Her body had healed, but her weapon was gone. I raised both hands. "Let's be practical," I told the elder. "I know Olivia's defenses. I can give you her secrets." Bridget turned on me. "You would betray the Empress?" McKenna pressed one hand over her mouth. She had seen this performance in Vaughn's cave. Her face said the sequel had arrived too soon. I nodded toward the city gate. "Let the women leave, then I'll tell you everything." The poison elder leaned forward. "You'll speak first." "I'm asking for one reasonable condition," I replied. The elder smiled. "You have no conditions." That was the answer I needed. I lowered my hands. The street cracked beneath my feet. Pressure rolled through the district and split the mountains beyond the wall. The poison snakes flattened. Every hall killer dropped face first into the stone. The elder's platform broke under him. He fell to the street and looked up at me with his mouth open. Bridget looked at McKenna. McKenna finally told her the truth. "He destroyed the Crimson Network, both bases. I watched him." Bridget's eyes returned to me. Bridget stopped looking at me like a coward and turned her blade toward the elder. The poison elder tried to crawl backward. "Senior, this is a misunderstanding." I crossed the distance and slapped him. He spun once and landed on his knees. "Will you release them?" I asked. "Yes," the elder gasped. Late answer, I decided. I slapped him again. "Who gave you permission to use my city?" The elder stammered about Black Hollow Hall's authority. Wrong answer. Another slap sent him through the remains of his platform. The feared poison master had entered the scene promising sacrifice. 3 minutes later, he was taking customer complaints with his face. McKenna leaned toward Bridget. "He's being gentle." Bridget stared at the split mountains. "That sentence concerns me." The elder dragged himself upright and screamed that poison defeated strength. He pointed at the kneeling guards and promised my arrogance would dissolve beside them. Bridget tightened her grip on the fallen sword. McKenna forced herself upright despite the venom. Both women knew the next attack could still kill everyone except me. I could survive the poison. The city could not. Then Baxter warned me the elder had just burned 30 years of his life. His hair whitened. A black-green swamp spread across the district, dissolving stone, weapons, and every plant it touched. The corrosive mist ate through the city barrier's inner pavement. The rule was simple. Ordinary bodies died on contact. The elder had paid 3 decades to make sure I stayed inside it. The swamp rose over my head. For several seconds, McKenna and Bridget could not see me. The elder laughed until I walked back out. My skin felt cleaner. I rubbed one cheek. "Baxter, is this exfoliation?" Baxter answered. "Technically, yes." The elder's laugh stopped so hard it almost injured him. I scooped a little poison onto my face. Bridget lowered her weaponless hand. "You're using his ultimate technique as skin care. Local death techniques have excellent wellness benefits." The disciple groaned near the formation. I picked him up by the collar and dropped him into the swamp. He vanished beneath the surface before he could climb out. That answered the safety test. Very effective poison. Wrong customer. I turned to the elder. "Can you make another batch?" The elder's face went blank. The elder swallowed his own final poison and collapsed rather than spend another minute as my personal spa technician. McKenna looked at the body. "He killed himself. I asked for skin care," I replied. McKenna pointed at the broken platform. "You asked after slapping him through that." "Tone is subjective," I told her. The city threat was over. The battlefield still contained a corrosive swamp, broken buildings, bodies, and 2 mountains with fresh cracks. Bridget studied the mess. "Can you remove the poison?" McKenna added. "And the evidence?" Both women looked at me. This was how people started assigning me duties. I struck the ground once. The ground rose under the battlefield. Then I exhaled and drove the poison, debris, and ruined formation away from the city. The blast flattened the entire combat zone. 3 nearby mountains disappeared with it. When the dust cleared, the land beyond the wall was one smooth plain. McKenna slowly lowered the talisman. You removed the evidence! Correct, I confirmed. McKenna pointed at the horizon. You removed the geography! Details, I replied. Then I remembered the city behind us. Its defense barrier had blocked the flash and most of the debris. It had protected the people from seeing the actual strike. The barrier could not hide the horizon. Citizens climbed the walls and stared at the empty space where 3 mountains had stood that morning. The guards who had been kneeling moments earlier now watched from the gate. One pointed at the flat plain and lowered his voice when Bridget approached. Her return alive became the only explanation they trusted. The commander received public credit while the useless prince stood behind her holding the wine. One man dropped his market basket. Another began praying. A child asked whether the mountains had gone to war. Reasonable theory. On the road away from the city, Bridget whispered to McKenna. She thought I might be more dangerous than the Crimson Network and Black Hollow Hall combined. I answered from 30 paces ahead. I can hear you. Bridget stopped walking. McKenna winced. He can hear blood moving inside a hidden fortress. Bridget stared at her. You left that detail out. I was prioritizing, McKenna replied. Bridget caught up and bowed once. Your secret is safe with me. McKenna matched her pace. Mine too. Every new secret keeper protected me today and increased tomorrow's leak risk. That night, McKenna took Bridget and me to her family home for dinner. Her father met us in the courtyard before we reached the table. McKenna refused to leave my side after the attack. She followed me through the courtyard while Bridget carried the wine we had finally recovered. I tapped McKenna's head when she suggested sleeping outside my door. Spend time with your parents, I told her. Some people don't get any. My parents had never been part of my life. The guild had raised me as equipment. McKenna's expression softened. Then her father chose chaos. Harrison Abbott served as Brighton's construction minister. He was Regina's husband, McKenna's father, and the best cook I had smelled since arriving in this world. He saw my hand on his daughter's head. Harrison stopped smiling. Prince Austin, remove your hand! I did. McKenna stepped in front of me. Father, stop embarrassing yourself, he pointed at her. You vanished with him, returned carrying his food, and now you defend him inside my home. Bridget set down the wine. He saved both of us. Harrison looked at her. From what? McKenna and Bridget shared the worst possible pause. I rescued them. They protected my secret. Harrison received silence and assumed the worst. He's Olivia's husband, Harrison snapped. You'll keep a proper distance. McKenna crossed her arms. Then stop insulting him, Bridget added, and thank him for the city. Harrison looked from one woman to the other. His daughter and Bridget had both taken my side before dinner. Then the smell from his kitchen reached me. I followed it inside. At the dinner table, Harrison placed roasted meat, spiced vegetables, and fresh bread before us. After one bite, I stopped discussing scandal and started negotiating his menu. I pointed my fork at him. You're cooking for me from now on. Harrison stared. I am a minister. You can have hobbies, I replied. Harrison set down his knife. I have responsibilities. The southern refugee camps need food, housing, and roads. The treasury is short. So do I told him. Mine include eating this again. McKenna covered a smile. Bridget drank her wine to hide one. I placed a storage ring on the table before Harrison could refuse again. Baxter had stripped every hostile seal from the Crimson Network's loot and converted it into clean, unmarked spirit stones. The ring held 1 million. Use it for the refugees, I told Harrison. Keep the source quiet, then tell me what you're cooking tomorrow. Harrison checked the amount and closed the ring inside his fist. Nobody outside this room will hear it from me. His grip tightened around the ring, and his tone changed immediately. What would you like tomorrow? Harrison asked. McKenna stared at him. Father. The money can put crews on roads by morning, Harrison replied. 1 million stones outranks your complaint, McKenna. I respected how fast he changed his mind. Harrison proposed buying food and temporary housing. That would keep people alive, but it would also leave the refugee gangs controlling every distribution line. Hire them, I said. Harrison frowned. Hire the gangs? Hire everyone, I explained. Roads, bridges, farms, drainage. Pay them in food and stones. Workers leave the gangs because honest work feeds them. The city gets rebuilt while the gang bosses lose recruits. Harrison stopped eating. Then he stood so quickly his chair fell backward. Harrison stared at the ring. That could work. It had better, I replied. I already paid for dinner. Harrison grabbed the storage ring and started calling for clerks outside the room. He had work crews moving before dessert. Harrison had become my ally and, more importantly, my chef. I thought missing 3 mountains would be hard to explain. 3 days later, Olivia came home and found the city treating her useless husband like a hero. 3 days later, at the northern battlefield, Olivia broke through to the 9th realm. She told me the old summoner smiled right until the sky turned gold. He had spent 3 days sealing her power while his allies attacked Brighton. His rule was simple. Keep Olivia trapped in the north, and Black Hollow Hall would finish the city before she returned. Then Olivia's power tore through the seal. Her first strike shattered his barrier. The old man tried to rebuild the seal around her, so Olivia drove straight through it and cut his staff in half. His final defense lasted one breath. Her next strike dropped him into the battlefield he had been bragging over. The invaders saw their sacred summoner fall and broke ranks before Regina's cavalry reached them. Olivia landed beside the command line, ordered the wounded carried home, and turned toward the city Black Hollow Hall had targeted. My wife had ended a war before lunch, very attractive behavior. Grand General Regina Abbott, McKenna's mother and Olivia's veteran commander, wanted to chase the retreating army. Olivia refused. The city comes first, Olivia ordered. We return now. She had reached the 9th realm faster than anyone expected. Olivia later admitted that her power had been growing strangely since my summoning. She still had no explanation, and the speed bothered her. The return route gave her a bigger problem. That afternoon, above the city Black Hollow Hall had attacked, Olivia and Regina found a flat horizon. Regina slowed in midair. There should be 3 mountains there. Olivia searched the empty land with her new 9th realm senses. The city still stood. The defense barrier was damaged. 3 mountains were simply gone. Regina tightened her grip on her weapon. Can you measure whoever did this? Olivia answered. No. That one word shut Regina up. The strongest woman in Brighton had just gained another realm. She still could not measure the person who had cleaned up my mess. Look, I had tried to hide one poison fight. I had accidentally edited the map. By late afternoon, at the capital's western gate, I was supervising Harrison's refugee crews from a chair. Supervising meant eating while other people worked. I had standards. During the half-month since the Crimson Network fell, trade had started moving again. In 3 days, Harrison's refugee crews had paved the road beneath my chair and put paid workers on every unfinished stretch. McKenna stood beside me, feeding me slices of roasted meat because both hands were occupied with lunch. Commander Bridget Kearns held the wine we had rescued from the Poison City. She claimed she was guarding it. She was guarding it from me badly. Then the Northern Army entered the gate. Olivia rode at the front in black armor with battle dust on her cheek. I lost my place in the conversation. In my defense, my wife had returned from war looking like the final boss. Olivia saw McKenna feeding me. Then she saw Bridget holding my wine. Her horse stopped. Austin, Olivia called. I left you with 1 guard. I upgraded the security plan. Bridget raised the wine. I am a commander, Your Majesty. Olivia looked at the bottle, then at me. That explanation helped him more than you. McKenna tried to lower the plate. Regina saw her daughter and nearly climbed off her horse through the saddle. McKenna Abbott, Regina barked. Why are you feeding him? McKenna moved behind my chair. The proud major who once called me dead weight had just used me as cover from her mother. I'm guarding the prince, McKenna answered. Regina pointed at the meat. From chewing? McKenna held up the plate. He forgets when people interrupt him. That has never happened, I said. McKenna placed another slice in my mouth. The nearby workers laughed. Regina reached for her daughter, but a road foreman stepped forward first. He bowed to Olivia, then pointed at me. Your Majesty, Prince Austin gave our families work. A wine merchant lifted a bottle from his cart. Olivia's name was stamped across the label. This batch sold out before sunrise, the merchant announced. The tax paid for the East Bridge repairs. A refugee crew stopped laying stone and bowed from the road. One man thanked me for paying wages instead of handing food to the gangs. An old shopkeeper invited me to the rebuilding banquet. 3 merchants argued over which table should seat me. I had funded roads for peace and unlocked public obligations. Classic punishment for competence. Regina's attempt to drag McKenna away had become a public defense of the useless prince. Beautiful. The crowd had chosen a side before I finished lunch. Olivia dismounted and studied the road, the wagons, the workers, and the bottle carrying her name. What happened while I was gone? She asked. Minor improvements, I replied. McKenna started listing my achievements before I could stop her. McKenna pointed at the road. Austin funded the crews and told Harrison to hire the gang's workers directly. The bosses are losing recruits. Bridget raised the bottle. The reopened bridge brought trade back. His wine profits helped fund it. McKenna, I warned, you're describing job qualifications. She smiled. Yes. Olivia's eyes softened at the workers. Then they narrowed at McKenna's plate. Olivia folded her arms. You rebuilt roads, funded refugees, and created a wine business while 2 women served your lunch? When you say it like that, it sounds organized, I replied. She glanced around. It looks organized. That is deeply unfair, I told her. I admitted that I had used her name without asking. People trusted the Empress more than they trusted a useless husband. Olivia stepped close enough for the crowd to hear her answer. You are my husband, Olivia declared. Use my name. The gate went quiet. Then Olivia turned toward the soldiers, workers, and merchants. No one in Brighton will call Prince Austin useless again. Anyone who insults my husband answers to me. the workers cheered. The guards who had mocked me near the palace stopped laughing. Regina let her hand fall from McKenna's shoulder. Even the walking fortress refused to fight a cheering city over my lunch guard. McKenna lifted her chin. Bridget handed me the wine like the court had just approved it. One guard who had laughed at me days earlier lowered his head when I looked over. You know public opinion has moved when the loudest man suddenly studies his boots. I leaned toward Olivia. This is why I married above my station. Olivia's mouth curved. I summoned you. Do not steal credit for that too. There she was. My war goddess had come home petty. That evening, at the Abbott family home, Harrison turned the reunion dinner into my personal awards ceremony. Regina entered expecting a feast for the returning army commander. Harrison adjusted a tray and told his wife, "The military banquet is at the palace. This table was prepared for Prince Austin." Regina stared at him. The walking fortress had been demoted inside her own dining room. McKenna studied her plate with heroic concentration. Bridget drank before anyone could involve her. Harrison set the branded wine and a heavy tax pouch beside Olivia. The roads reopened, the wine sold out, and direct pay stripped workers from the gangs. I pointed at the roast. Harrison, the food deserves our attention. He ignored me and broke fresh bread. The crews now mill the grain they eat. Every compliment sounded like somebody submitting an employment application in my name. Harrison, I cut in. I funded dinner. Stop trying to ruin it. Olivia watched me shrink from praise harder than I had faced poison. Olivia tilted her head. You really are afraid of work. Terrified, I admitted. She gestured toward the table. You destroyed that entire image just to avoid an office? I have seen offices. They lead to meetings, I told her. Olivia set down her cup. Then our original agreement stands, she announced. You will receive food, wealth, rank, and peace. I will not force you into office or military duty. I stopped pretending to eat. Olivia continued. You helped Brighton because you chose to. I will not punish that choice by taking away your freedom. I almost proposed again. Then I remembered we were already married and saved myself paperwork. This marriage has excellent benefits, I told her. Olivia smiled. Behave, and you may keep them. After Regina left to report to the army, Harrison mentioned the other subject waiting at court. Ministers wanted answers about the unknown powerhouse who had erased the Crimson Network and flattened Black Hollow Hall's attack. McKenna suddenly became fascinated by her cup. Bridget discovered an urgent interest in the window. Olivia watched both women avoid her eyes. You know something, McKenna answered too quickly. We know the city survived. That answer bought us nothing except Olivia's suspicion. Olivia sent McKenna and Bridget ahead to check the palace route. Once the room held only Olivia, Harrison, and me, he moved to the problem he could discuss openly. A royal husband had to sit beside the Empress during formal court. The Northern War had delayed my first appearance. That excuse had expired. Harrison lowered his voice. Prime Minister Clifton Maddox will use tomorrow's court to attack you. Olivia had told me about the marriage pressure, but she had never given me the full shape. Clifton had helped her take the throne during a succession crisis. His price came later. He wanted Olivia to marry his son Darren Maddox and place their family beside Brighton's future heirs. Darren wanted my seat. Clifton wanted control of whoever inherited it. Olivia had summoned a stranger because a husband with no family faction could block both men. Olivia's summoning had blocked the succession plan Clifton spent years arranging. Olivia faced me across the table. You do not have to attend. I can delay the ceremony again. Harrison shook his head. Clifton will call avoidance proof. Olivia's gaze stayed on me. I can protect you either way. I'll go, I said. Her fingers tightened around the cup. I believe you, I told her. You stood beside me at the gate. I can sit beside you in court. Olivia looked away first. The tips of her ears turned red. After dinner on the palace road, McKenna and Bridget walked behind me. McKenna whispered, Clifton is already cooked? Bridget answered, he does not know that. Best part, McKenna decided. A clumsy tail followed from 3 rooftops back. His breathing changed every time I looked toward a reflection. The tail was close enough to hear us, so I decided to give him one useful fact. I rolled the silver contract ring along my wrist. McKenna noticed. That ring is bound to your life force. I pulled it off. Both women stopped walking. Bridget pointed at the ring. The summoning contracts cannot be removed. It never rooted, I told her. I slid it onto my other wrist and kept moving. The footsteps behind us stopped for one full heartbeat. Whoever followed us had just learned that Olivia's leash was decorative. McKenna rested a hand on her sword. We should raid Clifton's estate tonight. No, I replied. Her jaw tightened. He wants to humiliate you in court. That is not enough reason to kill him, I told her. McKenna frowned. It would prevent the humiliation. Tapped her forehead. That is still murder, I said. Bridget looked at McKenna. You used to threaten people for touching your armor. McKenna rubbed her forehead. He carried a mountain. Fair defense. An hour later, in the palace training yard, I placed McKenna and Bridget under controlled pressure. My raw body came from Earth's missing restraints, so nobody could copy it. I taught them breathing, balance, and movement, while stronger force pressed down. "Hold your stances for 1 hour," I ordered. McKenna's knees bent. Bridget's boots cracked the stone. They stayed upright. Halfway through the hour, McKenna forced one step forward. Bridget followed before pride let the younger officer win alone. When the pressure eased, neither woman's hands shook. When the hour ended, both women remained standing. I sat nearby and practiced controlling one breath without damaging the yard. Precision made me sweat more than killing ever had. Olivia arrived as the hour ended with 2 attendants behind her. She dismissed them and pointed toward her bedroom. "You are sleeping beside me tonight," Olivia ordered. "Court will see a united marriage tomorrow." I followed because bravery has limits. Inside Olivia's bedroom, she had traded armor for a pale sleeping robe. I forgot what to do with my hands. Olivia patted the bed. "You have been training." I told her I had been supervising. Olivia touched my collar. "You are sweating. Leadership is demanding," I said. Olivia laughed, then moved close enough to touch the loose ring on my other wrist. Her smile faded. "Why are you really willing to face Clifton? I had survived blades, poison, explosions, and mountains." That question took longer. "I spent my life becoming strong enough that nobody could stand beside me," I said. "On Earth, people either used me or feared me." Olivia listened without interrupting. "When I arrived here, I thought the deal was food and peace. Then you left, and I wanted you to come back. McKenna became someone I protected. Bridget trusted me. Harrison started feeling like family." I looked at Olivia. "This marriage began as a political trick. It is the first family I ever chose." Olivia reached across the blanket and took my hand. "Olivia Harcourt," she said. "Empress of Brighton, your wife." "Austin Carlyle," I answered. "Your husband." Olivia kept holding my hand until the room went dark. The next morning, Clifton tried to turn our marriage into a death sentence. The next morning, inside Brighton's royal court, Olivia sat on the throne and I found a phoenix chair waiting beside her. The chair had curved wings, embroidered flowers, and enough delicate silk to make me look like the Empress's decorative cousin. I stopped in front of it. Olivia noticed before the ministers finished entering. "Replace that chair," she ordered. "My husband sits as prince." Attendants carried in a broad black seat with arms built for an adult man. Olivia gave me one private wink as I sat. Darren Maddox stared at the new chair from below the throne. Darren was Clifton's son, Olivia's rejected political match, and the spare heir who still believed my seat belonged to him. His jaw tightened. Good. Court had not started, and Darren was already mad at a chair. Prime Minister Clifton Maddox entered last. The polished snake had helped Olivia win the throne, then tried to collect her as payment for his son. He bowed to Olivia with perfect form and looked at me like an accounting error wearing royal clothes. Clifton stepped into the center of court. "Your Majesty, Brighton cannot continue carrying this man." Olivia's fingers settled on the throne arm. Clifton pointed toward my chair. "Austin Carlyle has no family standing, no cultivation record, and no service history. He spends imperial money on pleasure, sells wine using your name, surrounds himself with female officers, and turns ministers into personal servants." Harrison's face hardened at the servant line. One young officer tightened her grip on a sword. Clifton saw both reactions and kept digging. "He has turned a young major into a server," Clifton continued. "A widowed commander carries his wine. Minister Harrison diverts his time from Brighton to cook at the prince's table. Every person near him forgets their proper duty." McKenna had fed me at the gate. Harrison had publicly claimed me as his favorite dinner guest. Clifton had collected the visible facts and turned them into a charge against the throne. Annoyingly competent. Then he aimed at Olivia. "Your feelings have blinded the throne," Clifton declared. "The prince weakens Brighton's dignity. I request his exile." Clifton had accused me in front of the whole court. If he failed, the whole court would watch. Olivia rose. Her ninth realm pressure struck the court floor. Pillars shook. Several ministers dropped to one knee. "Insult my husband again," Olivia warned, "and I will remove your head before I remove his title." Clifton remained standing. His robe snapped under her pressure, but his voice stayed level. "Then exile is insufficient," Clifton answered. "For corrupting the throne and threatening Brighton's succession, Prince Austin should be executed." Man, the polished snake received one warning and upgraded to death. He was committed. Olivia's power climbed again. I touched her wrist from my chair. "Let him finish." Clifton looked at my hand on the Empress and disliked the marriage even more. Harrison stepped forward before Olivia could answer. "The prince funded refugee relief, reopened roads, restored trade, and gave workers a way out of the gangs." He pointed toward the officers. "My daughter also completed sword intent while serving him." A nearby blade slid from its sheath as the air sharpened. 3 veteran officers shifted back. McKenna's improvement was real. The record still carried Harrison's name. Clifton turned to Harrison. "Show the court one written order carrying Austin's name." Harrison went quiet. I had given advice over dinner. Harrison had issued and signed the orders. Clifton knew where the proof ended. So, Harrison did the work, Clifton concluded. The prince took the praise. I leaned back. Can you prove I did not give the plan? Clifton's eyes narrowed. You are the accused. You made the accusation, I reminded him. Bring evidence, the court murmured. Clifton's smile narrowed by 1 degree. He had wanted a defense. I had made him prove the attack. Clifton had expected me to defend every road like a clerk. I handed the burden back and watched his proof argument fail. He changed tactics immediately. Clifton opened a black case carried by 2 attendants. Inside rested an ancient legacy book wrapped in chains. Every minister recognized it. Clifton faced Olivia. This relic belonged to Brighton's first royal line. Its script chooses worthy readers. Anyone below the 10th realm who opens it and fails dies before the final page. Every minister heard the rule. Olivia's hand tightened around mine. Harrison shook his head once. Clifton looked at me. Read it and receive the inheritance. I will withdraw every charge and pay 5 million spirit stones. And if I fail? I asked. Clifton answered. You die without staining the execution platform. Efficient. Rude, but efficient, Olivia cut in. Austin, refuse, Harrison added. No one in Brighton has survived that book for generations. I looked at the chained relic, then at Clifton. I studied the book. 5 million is low for a death wager. Clifton's smile returned. Name your courage then. Put the terms in writing, I answered. A court clerk carried the wager forward. The page stated one brutal exchange. I opened the legacy book and read to the end. Success earned the signed amount. Failure killed me before Clifton ever needed an executioner. Clifton had offered 5 million. The written total on the page was 6. The polished snake kept his eyes on Olivia while signing. The performance cost him 1 million. I read the total twice and signed beneath him. Look, you do not interrupt a wealthy man while he is making your victory more expensive. Darren finally lost control. Father, do not bargain with this parasite, Darren snapped. He should be dragged from my place beside the throne. I stood, crossed the space, and slapped him. The hit turned Darren sideways and dropped him beside the chair he thought he deserved. The court went silent. I looked at Clifton. Your son keeps interrupting adults. Parent him. Darren pushed himself up, his face twisted with rage. Clifton raised one hand without looking at him. My son behaved without discipline, Clifton said. I accept responsibility and surrender 1 year of household salary to the treasury. He bowed to Olivia. Clifton swallowed the public slap, paid a smaller price, and protected the larger wager. That restraint made him more dangerous than Darren. I returned to the legacy book. The chains fell away when I touched the cover. Olivia stood beside the throne. Once opened, it begins attacking the reader's body and mind. Closing it before the final page also kills the reader. Very dramatic book, I said. Then, I opened it. Black symbols rose from the first page and struck my forehead. The court leaned forward. I felt pressure behind my eyes, across my shoulders, and down my spine. I turned the page. More symbols hit. I closed the book before the final page. Several ministers recoiled. Darren started smiling through the handprint on his face. Clifton spoke softly. He has chosen death. I sat back in the new chair. Clifton had promised immediate death. Every eye in court moved to my throat, waiting for a pulse to stop. Olivia stepped down from the throne. Darren rose halfway from the floor with a satisfied grin. Nothing happened. I rubbed the back of my neck. The pressure had reached a useful spot. Darren's smile began losing confidence before he finished standing. I opened the book again and read slowly. Clifton watched my breathing. Olivia watched my hands. Harrison looked prepared to throw himself between me and paper, which was loyal and medically useless. I glanced up. Could everyone stop staring? You were making reading weird. Nobody moved. You know a deaf test is going badly when the victim requests better library manners. The second page drove pressure through my ribs. The third struck behind my eyes. Each attack would have broken a normal reader before the ink finished moving. Clifton counted the pages under his breath. Darren watched my face for pain and found boredom. Olivia left the throne and stood beside my chair. She stayed close enough to catch me, though the book's rule gave her nothing to catch. I turned another page. A minister near Clifton whispered that no reader had ever reached that point alive. Clifton silenced him with one look, then addressed me. You may still surrender the claim, Clifton offered. And lose 6 million? I asked. Be serious. The symbols kept attacking. The writing still looked like scratches carved by an angry bird. Baxter? I asked inside my mind. Translate this. My overqualified assistant answered. Translation requires 3,000 system points. I asked how many points I had. Baxter replied, insufficient. You control the missions, I reminded it. Baxter paused. Then the system announced, new mission. Remain seated for 1 second. I remained seated. Mission complete. Reward, 9,909,999 points. My assistant had just invented the easiest mission in history. Nepotism finally worked for me. Begin translation, I ordered. The symbols changed. Baxter translated one line first. The book was testing whether the reader could carry its legacy without breaking. Every page I had survived had already answered that question. What had looked meaningless became a sequence of instructions written directly into my mind. The legacy book stopped trying to reject me and began pouring its inheritance forward. Golden characters rose from every page. They circled the court once, then entered my forehead in a bright stream. The book lifted from my hands and folded itself closed. Olivia's fear vanished. She smiled. Harrison lowered his fists. The older ministers who had expected a corpse stepped away from Clifton instead. One elder who had nodded through the execution request now bowed toward me. A general shifted his chair away from Darren and closer to Harrison. Nobody near Clifton moved back toward him. Darren looked from the glowing book to his father's signed wager. He understood the money problem before Clifton admitted the power problem. Clifton stared at the final light entering my mind. The transfer may be incomplete. The legacy book floated behind me and ignored him. I picked up the wager. You offered 5 million, I told Clifton. You signed 6. His eyes dropped to the written number. I gave him a thumbs up. Generous mistake. Harrison coughed into his fist and failed to hide a laugh. Two generals stopped pretending to inspect the floor. Then Olivia laughed from the throne. An officer near Harrison covered her mouth too late. Even the clerk who had written the wager bent over his table. The laughter spread through the court while Clifton remained standing in its center. Darren looked around for support and found ministers studying the handprint on his face. Clifton's face stayed controlled. His hand did not. He crushed the edge of his sleeve, then released it. Clifton placed a storage ring containing 6 million spirit stones on the wager table. Brighton honors written terms, Clifton said. I knew I liked public service, I replied. Darren looked ready to argue again. Clifton's stare shut him down before I needed the other hand. The accusation was over. The court elders changed sides with impressive speed. One praised my mind. Another called the inheritance a sign of royal favor. A general suggested I should lead a new imperial office. A treasury minister offered me an advisory seat before the first man finished. The job alarm had become a coordinated attack. I raised one hand. Wine and dinner. The general blinked. Your Highness, that is the reward I want. Olivia covered another smile. Public genius was dangerously close to employment. I had to manage expectations early. Outside the court that afternoon, Olivia walked beside me. Harrison carried the 6 million ring and was already naming roads. Olivia looked at the legacy book under my arm. What did it feel like? Mostly shoulder pressure, I told her. Olivia frowned. That book kills readers below the 10th realm. No, she touched my arm. You closed it early. The first page was working on my neck, I explained. Olivia stopped walking. You treated a royal death relic like a massage. The poison elder had better skin care. She hit my arm with the back of her hand. You are impossible, yet still married. Olivia's glare lasted 2 steps. Her smile lasted longer. By sunset, the inheritance story had reached every tavern near the palace. By dinner, merchants were offering money for copies of a script nobody could read. Strangers asked whether an ancient power had chosen Brighton's foreign prince. One rumor claimed a greater force would soon come to reclaim what the book had given me. The news had spread too quickly to be natural. Every copy of the rumor made the book sound richer, older, and more dangerous. That meant treasure hunters, ambitious factions, and anyone hunting the unknown powerhouse now had a fresh reason to look at me. Clifton had lost the court. I suspected the polished snake had fed the rumor himself. Court had failed, so he had made my inheritance everybody else's target. The inheritance had made me rich, famous, and employable. 3 separate disasters. Before sunrise, Olivia sent for me. My public victory had earned me a royal work assignment. The morning after Clifton's court humiliation, I found Olivia buried under documents in her private workroom. My inheritance rumor had made every minister suddenly interested in my schedule. Olivia planned to give me 1 official duty before they invented 10. She joined 2 plain jade keys on the desk. Golden lines crossed both halves, and every lock in the room clicked. 1 half belonged to my father, Olivia explained. The other came from Clifton's family under an old court arrangement. Together, they opened his sealed vault. I looked at the jade, then at the paperwork around her. I frowned at the keys. This feels dangerously close to employment. Olivia leaned back. The court just watched you receive a royal inheritance. They will demand that I give you an office. Cruel people, I said. Inspect the vault, keep it secure, and take anything inside that makes you happy, she replied. Her tone stayed light, but the keys had belonged to her father. Olivia was handing me access to the part of her family nobody else controlled. I picked up the jade. Treasure inspection is a respected retirement activity. Olivia smiled without lifting her head. Try not to sleep in it, no promises. The feared work assignment had become a treasure key. Olivia kept finding new ways to make employment acceptable. An hour later, beneath the palace, McKenna and Harrison followed me into the sealed vault complex. The paired jade keys joined in my palm and lit the stone door. A hidden storage layer opened first, carrying residue from Olivia's summoning ritual. That residue had caught something else when it pulled me across worlds. A black object shaped like a coffin stood inside the first chamber. Metal bands crossed the lid, and old scratches ran along one edge. I recognized every mark. McKenna stepped closer. That came from Earth? I confirmed it. What is it? McKenna asked. A weapon, I answered. She reached toward the latch. I caught her wrist before she touched it. The coffin weapon belonged to the master who raised me inside the Assassin Guild. It came from my assassin past, and I had no intention of opening it near anyone I wanted alive. Do not touch this, I told McKenna. Her hand went still. McKenna had watched me carry a mountain and erase 2 fortresses. This was the first warning that made her stop asking questions. She stepped back. Understood. I moved the coffin weapon into Baxter's storage without opening it. I would not touch it again until I chose otherwise. Then Harrison turned the joined jade toward the second door. The Imperial Vault opened. Spirit stones filled the chamber from floor to ceiling. The stones sat in shining hills behind sealed chests, weapon racks, and stacks of royal reserves. Some piles reached the upper balconies. Others pressed against doors nobody had opened in decades. The visible wealth exceeded Brighton's public treasury several times over. Harrison walked past me, counted one pile, looked toward the next chamber, and made one small sound. Then my chef fainted. He folded beside the door before McKenna could catch him. McKenna looked down at her father. He survived a family argument and lost to money. Reasonable weakness, I said. Olivia arrived after the vault flare reached her workroom. She entered, saw the treasure mountain, and stopped beside Harrison's unconscious body. My father left all this? Olivia asked. I pointed at Harrison. Apparently enough to make a minister faint. McKenna knelt and slapped her father's cheek lightly. Wake up! The Empire needs your greed! Harrison opened his eyes, saw the stones again, and immediately sat up. We can finish the southern roads, he said. McKenna grabbed his shoulder. Father, you just fainted! Recovered! You have not stood up! Harrison stood to win the argument and pointed across the vault. Border weapons, refugee farms, capital walls, winter armor. The man had been unconscious for 8 seconds and woke with a national budget. Olivia watched him claim piles for Brighton, then looked at me. Take what you want, Austin. That was trust, wealth, and marital permission in one sentence. Dangerous combination. I dragged enough spirit stones into a flat mound and lay down. McKenna stared. You built a bed. I found what makes me happy. Harrison pointed at my pillow. Those stones could finish another road. Choose a different pile, I told him. Harrison spread both hands. There are millions. Exactly. Stop budgeting my mattress, I said. Olivia covered her mouth, but I saw the smile. She told Harrison the bed was mine. The treasure suddenly felt like family property I had already claimed. In my defense, spirit stones were warm, expensive, and already paid for. Luxury had finally become ergonomic. The moment my head touched the pile, a sharp pain struck between my eyes. A third point of light appeared above my forehead. Then, the vault vanished. I stood inside a dark space with an ancient man floating before me. He wore old robes, with 99 stars circling his body. At last, the Guardian declared, a worthy inheritor has received my legacy. Looked around. Are you inside my mind? I'm the guardian of an age beyond your understanding. Classic ancient mentor entrance. The floating lights came with a voice ready for a 3-hour prophecy. Baxter's interface opened beside me. The Guardian looked toward my assistant and stopped speaking. Thousands of lights unfolded behind the system presence. The ancient man's 99 stars suddenly looked like a discount display. Then the Guardian looked at me. The brightness around my soul filled the dark space. His stars faded at the edges. He drifted backward, adjusted his robe, and tried to act in charge again. You possess unusual potential, the Guardian decided. Submit the inheritance to my guidance, and I may permit you to carry it. I stared at him. The book chose me, the Guardian scoffed. The book is merely a gate. And you are? I asked. He raised his chin. I am the will beyond it. His grand entrance had lasted 10 seconds. He still acted like he controlled the room. I asked what the inheritance wanted from me. The Guardian avoided the question. He reached toward the golden symbols entering my mind and called obedience a necessary price. When I blocked his hand, his smile disappeared. Baxter? I asked. My assistant scanned him. Hostile intent confirmed. He is attempting unauthorized access to the inheritance core. His energy is compatible with my upgrade core. The Guardian's stars jerked toward Baxter. 3 dimmed before he finished raising his hands. The Guardian raised both hands. You misunderstand. I am your guide. I looked toward Baxter's interface. Eat him. The Guardian's face finally lost its ancient dignity. Good. Baxter opened a black field around him. The Guardian tried to command the inheritance. Nothing answered. He tried to leave my mind. The dark field closed around his ankles. "Stop this," he demanded. "You require my knowledge." I required an honest answer, I told him. "You chose trespassing." The 99 stars went out first. The Guardian followed before he finished protesting. The expected mentor had become system food. Wrong inheritance, wrong host, terrible career choice. Baxter announced, "Compatible energy acquired. Upgrade beginning." How long? Unknown. Storage remains stable. All active assistants will be unavailable. Then Baxter disappeared. My assistant ate one ancient guardian and immediately took paid leave. The vault returned around me. Olivia, McKenna, and Harrison were staring at the new mark above my eyes. I sat up on the spirit stone bed. "Minor inheritance issue," I told them. Harrison pointed at the treasure. "Does the issue affect the budget?" He relaxed immediately. By nightfall, I had moved my claimed spirit stone bed into a palace room. Baxter was still offline. No scans, no storage voice, no anime. I had survived most of my life without a supreme system, but losing entertainment first was cruel. The assassin later admitted that Black Hollow Hall had connected 3 facts by midnight. Its poison elder was dead, its palace scout was missing. My inheritance rumor had given the hall my room. He came to test whether the useless prince was the hidden powerhouse. I fell asleep anyway. A window latch moved after midnight. A masked assassin entered without touching the floor. He crossed the room, raised a narrow black dagger, and drove it into my throat. The blade shattered. Metal fragments bounced across the spirit stones. I opened my eyes. The assassin remained frozen above me with half a handle in his hand. We looked at each other. He spoke first. "I struck you with the back of the blade. I picked up the broken edge." "The sharp side?" "It was an accident," the assassin insisted. "Look, I need you to understand how desperate that lie was." The man had entered through my window dressed in black and stabbed me in bed. Then he blamed weapon orientation. I bent the remaining metal between 2 fingers. "Good news," I told him. "It is recyclable." The door burst open. Bridget had been guarding the corridor. She saw the mask, the broken weapon, and the insignia under his sleeve. "Black Hollow Hall assassin," Bridget warned. "That dagger was rank 6. One blade could buy a noble estate." I held up the bent metal. "Smaller estate now." Bridget did not laugh. The assassin looked at the metal in my hand, then at my unmarked throat. The assassin stopped arguing and backed toward the window. "The inheritance rumor put your room on our list," he said. "Then our poison elder vanished. Our palace scout vanished." The aura traces matched. He had arrived expecting a sleeping prince. The failed strike gave him the final answer. His voice rose. "You destroyed the Crimson Network. You destroyed the city cell. You are the hidden god they are hunting." Bridget moved to silence him. He shouted louder. Whatever discipline he had left was gone. "The prince is the unknown powerhouse," he yelled toward the corridor. "He is above the numbered realms." A floorboard shifted in Olivia's room down the hall. The loudest assassin in Brighton had discovered my secret and announced it near my wife. The same black fracture opened beside the assassin and widened into a dark rift. The assassin backed away. "What is that?" "Privacy." I grabbed his collar and threw him through the rift. The opening closed before his scream finished. I did not choose a destination, and I never learned whether he found one. Bridget stared at the empty air. "You threw him out of the room." "Technically," I replied. Bridget asked where he went. "Away," I told her. She hated the answer. The assassin remained gone. I crossed the hall and checked Olivia's door. Her breathing remained slow. She had not woken, so I returned to my spirit stone bed, pushed the broken dagger pieces aside, and went back to sleep. By sunrise, Harrison was gone, and for the first time, brute force could kill the person I was trying to rescue. The next morning, at the Abbott family home, Regina found Harrison's room empty. His coat still hung beside the door. Breakfast sat untouched. The bed had never been used. Grand General Regina Abbott had sent her husband away after a late argument. By sunrise, anger had become guilt. McKenna found a scorched Black Hollow Hall teleport marker beside the outer wall. The same kind had powered the Poison City formation, so the hall had planted a route during that attack. Harrison's broken pocket seal lay beside it. He had fought long enough to leave one clue. The hall had still taken him. Olivia arrived before the household guards finished searching the street. She looked at the marker, then at Regina's face. "Harrison's refugee work made enemies," Olivia warned. "Black Hollow Hall already attacked one city. Assume this is a lure." Regina gripped her weapon. "I sent him outside." Olivia caught her arm. "Then bring him home. Blame yourself afterward." Harrison had helped raise Olivia and rebuild Brighton through the succession crisis. Olivia looked at the empty doorway. "He is family. We are bringing him back." That promise pulled Regina upright. Olivia locked down the house and split the search with Regina across territory controlled by Black Hollow Hall. McKenna took the faster option. She ran straight to me. Minutes later, in my palace bedroom, McKenna kicked open the door and woke me on my spirit stone bed. Black Hollow Hall took my father, McKenna said. I sat up. Somebody kidnapped my chef? McKenna's hands were shaking. The joke died there. The poison elder had targeted a city near my household. An assassin from Black Hollow Hall had entered my room the previous night. Now, a teleport marker had appeared outside Harrison's home. Harrison controlled refugee money, knew Olivia's schedule, and cooked at my table. Black Hollow Hall had chosen the person who connected all three. They were building a leash around everyone close to me. That was the first useful thing their faction had done. They made the target obvious. I picked up the marker. One burned line still pulsed east. Stay with your mother, I told McKenna. I'm coming. No, Black Hollow Hall already has one abbot. I stepped toward the window. Don't make me collect a matching set. McKenna grabbed my sleeve. What about your secret? I'll bring Harrison back first. McKenna released my sleeve. I launched through the window and shattered the frame behind me. The palace roof cracked under my first step. McKenna shielded her face while the green trail crossed the capital and vanished east. Baxter was still offline. No scan, no map. The marker gave me one direction, and Black Hollow Hall had given me motivation. I held the burned metal in one hand and followed its pulse through every mountain barrier in my way. If the signal weakened, I moved faster. While I crossed the Empire, Olivia later told me she reached Black Hollow Hall's border first. Entering the faction's territory openly could start a war. She hovered above the mountain line, measuring the barrier and deciding whether Harrison's life justified it. Then, a green streak passed her. Olivia swung once and hit empty air. The streak had already crossed the barrier. The force peeled clouds from the mountain and left a glowing line through the hall's outer formation. Olivia stared at the breach, then drove through it before the guards below could close anything. She could not see my face. She only knew the unknown powerhouse had just entered the place she was preparing to attack. She also knew Harrison was inside. So my wife followed me, one broken barrier behind. Inside Black Hollow headquarters, Harrison had already learned why they wanted him. He told me the full story later. The teleport route had dragged him through 3 sealed chambers. The Hall Lord waited in the last one with a torturer and an executioner. The Lord ordered Harrison to keep supporting me at court. He also wanted reports on Olivia's movements, visitors, and military plans. A useless husband keeps the Empress comfortable, the Lord explained. You will help us keep him close. They thought I was Olivia's controllable weak point. Man, their intelligence department was speedrunning unemployment. The Lord wanted reports for Black Hollow Hall. Harrison took the demand as proof the Hall was pursuing its own plan beyond Clifton's marriage pressure. The Lord offered Harrison a private estate, a higher title, and enough stones to move his family outside Brighton. Harrison asked one question. What happens to Olivia after I help you? The Lord smiled. The Empress keeps ruling while she remains useful. Harrison's jaw locked. I will not spy on Empress Olivia, Harrison answered. Then the Lord threatened Regina and McKenna. He described their routes, their guard rotations, and the room where McKenna slept as a child. Harrison still refused. Brighton raised me from poverty, Harrison told them. The royal family gave me a home. My wife and daughter live under that flag. The Lord leaned close. Pain will correct your loyalty, Harrison answered. Then you brought too little. The torturer forced a black scent worm into Harrison's body. Its rule was simple. The worm ate through his organs. Incense slowed it. Only the real antidote removed it. The torturer opened the incense just long enough for Harrison to breathe. Then he closed it again and let the worm move. Pain dropped Harrison to one knee. His hands shook. Blood left his face. The worm twisted again. Harrison's fingers carved shallow grooves into the floor, but he still pushed one foot beneath himself. He vomited onto the stone. The executioner laughed and pushed his head toward the floor. Harrison caught himself on one palm. Kneel, the executioner ordered. Harrison forced himself upright before the Hall Lord finished smiling. I would rather die standing than live on them. Then he apologized to Regina and McKenna under his breath. The executioner raised his blade. The ceiling broke before it fell. I crashed through the headquarters and drove the executioner through the floor. 2 guards rushed me from opposite sides. I caught one weapon, broke it, and sent both men through the same wall. Dust rolled across the chamber. Every killer stepped back except the Hall Lord. He still had Harrison and knew it. Harrison looked up with wet eyes and tried to stand straighter. Morning, Harrison, I told him. Your customer service is terrible. His mouth moved once before sound returned. Austin? I pointed at him. McKenna still blames the chair for what happened at her 7th birthday. Harrison stared. Then he wheezed. It wasn't the chair. Identity confirmed. Family dignity destroyed. Efficient rescue work. The Hall Lord lifted the incense box. Move again, and the worm kills him. The torturer pressed 2 fingers against Harrison's chest. Dark movement twisted beneath his skin. I stopped. I had enough strength to erase the mountain. Harrison would die before the stones landed. The Hall Lord's smile widened. He finally had leverage that mattered. Look, I need you to understand the problem. I could erase the whole headquarters. I could not save Harrison after the worm started eating. You destroyed our city branch, the Hall Lord said. Our palace scout entered your room and vanished. Today you obey. He had connected the right events and learned the wrong lesson. I faced the torturer. Give me the antidote. The torturer opened the incense box. Harrison's pain eased, but the dark lines under his skin remained. That only sedates it, I said. The Hall Lord smiled. Then you understand the bargain. Harrison shook his head. Do not protect them for me. His voice scraped. Regina will understand. McKenna will hate it, but she will understand too. No, I told him. The Hall Lord laughed. He's asking you to let him die. Heard him. Then choose. The Hall Lord produced a blood pact. The rule was plain. I would swear never to harm any member inside the headquarters. They would cure Harrison. If I broke the promise, heavenly law would execute me. Baxter's voice returned as a faint crackle inside my head. Upgrade core stable. Warning, this pact belongs to local heavenly law. Your lineage may outrank its jurisdiction. Outcome cannot be guaranteed. The Hall Lord mistook my pause for fear. He pushed the pact closer. Your strength has reached its limit. Heaven has rules even you cannot ignore. Baxter could not promise otherwise. The dragon lineage in my blood had broken local measurements before. A heavenly execution was still a heavenly execution. Harrison tried to rise and failed. Sign, the Hall Lord ordered, or watch your friend die. I pressed my thumb into the pact. The blood mark accepted me. I signed. Food was the joke. Family was the reason. The pact burned across my palm. The torturer gave Harrison the real antidote. The black lines faded, and the scentworm dissolved before it reached his heart. Harrison dragged in one full breath. I gave the hall members 30 seconds to believe the bargain had saved them. I carried Harrison past the first gate, doubled back through a service tunnel, and hit us one wall from the chamber. My old guild had trained children to disappear inside occupied rooms. Black Hollow Hall had researched my power. They had ignored my profession. The hall members heard us leave. They did not hear us stay. Inside the chamber, the Hall Lord slapped his intelligence officer to the floor. You reported a weak prince, the Hall Lord snapped. Now he is protected by our own pact. The torturer laughed. He cannot touch us. We can hire outsiders, poison his attendants, and strike the Empress through him. The Lord ordered a second attack before Harrison and I had reached the gate. Use outsiders, the Hall Lord instructed. The pact blocks his hand. It says nothing about ours. The intelligence officer asked whether Olivia should be targeted too. The Hall Lord answered, especially Olivia. Hurt the Empress, and the prince will crawl back under control. Harrison looked at me. I stepped back into the chamber. Excellent planning meeting. The laughter stopped. The Hall Lord raised the blood pact. You can't harm us. You kidnapped Harrison, poisoned him, threatened my family, and planned another attack before I left the room. I looked around the chamber. You used every chance. One enforcer fired a cloud of venom at my face. I walked through it and erased him with one strike. The chamber split open. The headquarters shook. Surviving killers rushed the exits, then stopped when the pact burned through my palm. The marks climbed my wrist like hot wire. My body ignored the pain. The law behind it felt different. This force did not belong to Black Hollow Hall. The sky turned purple. The Hall Lord started laughing again. Heaven accepted the breach. Thunder crushed the mountain air. A dragon made from purple lightning descended through the broken roof. Even I could not predict what the next second would cost. The villains knelt to the dragon and pointed at me. Outside the mountain, Olivia later told me the same pressure forced her out of the air. She landed beyond the broken barrier and watched purple lightning wrap the headquarters. She still could not see who stood inside. I looked up. If you came for my head, take it. The dragon dropped. Then, it stopped above me. Its enormous head lowered. The lightning around its body softened. One violet eye fixed on the blood mark. Then, the dragon looked past it, toward whatever lived deeper in my blood. It circled me once like a guard, faced the kneeling villains, and released a warning roar. Stone shattered under every hall member. The Hall Lord pressed his forehead to the floor. Harrison forgot his pain and stared straight up. No hall member moved. The dragon rose back into the clouds without touching me. The blood pact cracked. Baxter's voice steadied. Confirmed. Local heavenly law recognizes your ancient dragon lineage as senior authority. The pact dissolved into ash. The Hall Lord flattened himself and begged. The torturer followed. Every surviving killer copied them. Heaven had arrived to execute me and left them an angry weather report. I stood over the Hall Lord. Name one good thing you have done. The torturer tried to speak first. We maintained order. You fed a worm to my chef. The intelligence officer claimed he only followed instructions. The Hall Lord promised donations, information, and lifelong service. I raised one finger. 1. They started shouting excuses over each other. I opened spatial rifts beneath the survivors. 3. The entire leadership disappeared before anybody found a good deed. Harrison stared at the empty chamber. You skipped too. They were wasting time. I warned him to keep the dragon, pact, and my power away from Olivia's court. Harrison looked at the ruined headquarters. You realize secrecy gets harder every time you destroy a faction. I'm aware of the trend. Then we found the hall treasury. A sealed vault beneath the headquarters held 32 million spirit stones. The first chamber held loose stones in waist-high bins. The second held sealed rings. The third contained enough reserve wealth to fund several small wars. Black Hollow Hall had tortured civilians while sitting above a private mountain of money. Very charitable organization. Harrison counted the first rows and immediately started assigning money to Brighton. Harrison swept one hand over the bins. 10 million repairs the southern farms. Another 8 strengthens the border. The rest belongs in the royal treasury. I took 1 storage ring. The rest belongs to the kidnapping victim and his rescuer. I'm the kidnapping victim, Harrison argued. Then support the claim. Harrison pointed at the piles. 32 million is enough compensation. I calculated missed breakfast, emergency travel, emotional distress, damaged sleep, and the insult to my chef supply. They still owe me 5 million. Harrison closed his eyes. You're billing a destroyed organization. Debt survives management changes. By late afternoon, I returned Harrison to the capital. Regina reached him first. She struck his shoulder once. You left after an argument, Regina snapped. I was kidnapped, Harrison protested. That's not a defense. Then Regina grabbed his robe and held him hard enough to stop both of them breathing. McKenna wrapped around the other side. Harrison complained about his ribs and refused to let go. Regina pressed her face into his shoulder and apologized once, too quietly for anyone without my hearing. Harrison answered by asking what she wanted for dinner. I left the family reunion carrying Black Hollow Hall's 32 million stones. Before I reached the palace, a disheveled woman stepped into the road and looked straight at the ring. Late that afternoon, on the road back to the palace, a disheveled woman stepped in front of me. She wore a torn gray cloak and dust-covered boots. Her face made the disguise useless. In my defense, I noticed the face first. She looked at the storage ring holding Black Hollow Hall's 32 million stones, then looked at me. Take care of me, the woman requested. I stopped walking. That sentence has several expensive interpretations. She moved closer and smiled. I can repay you with devoted personal service. A gorgeous beggar had walked out of nowhere and asked for full support. My retirement kept attracting side quests. No, I told her. She caught my sleeve. Feed me, house me, and carry me when I am tired. You have listed work for me. I dislike work, she admitted. That part sounded honest. She leaned against my arm as if we had known each other longer than 12 seconds. I moved one step away. She moved with me. You are persistent, I said. You are wealthy. Finally, a transparent relationship. An older relief official was directing labor crews beside the road. I waved him over. Give this woman a job, I ordered. The livestock crews start before sunrise. Keep her busy until she learns what effort feels like. The official glanced at her, then at my ring, and asked nothing. The woman brightened instead of protesting. Will you check my progress? She asked. I tapped her forehead. Work first, rewards later. Her eyes warmed in a way that made the relief official look politely toward the trees. I narrowed my eyes. You are enjoying the scolding. She leaned closer. You are very good at it. Look, I had survived a heavenly dragon that morning. The dragon had been simpler. She asked for a piggyback ride to the work camp. I pointed at her functioning legs. She sighed, used them, and followed the relief official while smiling at me over her shoulder. I left before she could request a performance review. When I looked back, the road was empty. The relief official later swore a line of armed attendants had appeared from the trees and collected her. He never heard a name. He only remembered that every guard bowed. At the time, I filed that under rich person nonsense and went to dinner. That evening, at the Abbott family table, Harrison cooked enough food to recover from kidnapping through volume. McKenna sat beside her father. Bridget guarded the wine. Regina watched Harrison every time he stood, as if Black Hollow Hall might steal him between courses. I told them about the beautiful woman who wanted food, housing, carrying, and rewards for avoiding work. Harrison stopped carving the roast. She asked you to care for her? Yeah. McKenna laughed first. Bridget followed. Even Regina's mouth moved. Harrison pointed his knife at me. The laziest man in Brighton has been asked to support another adult. I found the request unreasonable. McKenna wiped her eyes. You married an empress for breakfast. Olivia made the offer, I reminded her. Bridget lifted her cup. Perhaps the woman sensed professional experience, Regina added. Did you at least ask whether she can cook? Harrison looked offended. Nobody replaces me. The man had survived organ-eating poison and found his competitive spirit at dinner. I tapped McKenna's forehead, then Bridget's. Harrison ducked before I reached him. The family had survived a hostage crisis and immediately returned to bullying me. Honestly, that felt healthy. The next morning, at the palace breakfast table, Olivia handed me a merchant complaint about pigs. Harrison had placed a herd of oversized spirit pigs on a royal pasture. Their meat had become absurdly valuable, so I claimed a share of the sales. Rare pork was a stable retirement asset. Olivia tapped the complaint. Your pigs now cost more than armored horses. They taste better. Merchants accused the palace of price fixing. I shrugged. Then they should stop buying them. Olivia narrowed her eyes. As punishment, 1 pig will be served at dinner. Cruel but fair. She slid a second note toward me. 2 pigs had vanished from the livestock crew. The word vanished connected 3 facts at once. The strange woman had been assigned there. Armed attendants had collected her. The relief official had found an empty pen afterward. I dropped my breakfast. Olivia watched me stand. Austin? She stole my pigs. You own 32 million stones. I grabbed the second note. Those pigs were earning interest. I left the palace yelling about livestock theft while my wife laughed behind me. An hour later, outside a royal-looking camp beyond the capital, I found the beggar wearing gold. Her gray cloak was gone. A fitted black and gold dress had replaced it. Guards in dark armor lined both sides of a silk pavilion. One held a lacquered box overflowing with spirit stones. The woman sat beneath a jeweled canopy. The beggar outfit had been a disguise. She looked spectacular, and she knew I noticed. Then I remembered the pigs. You stole my livestock, I accused. The woman smiled. I borrowed your attention. That is theft with better posture. Crossed the pavilion and tapped her forehead. 3 guards reached for weapons. She raised 1 finger, and every hand stopped. Then she closed her eyes and smiled wider. Same reaction, same dangerous woman. You're the roadside beggar. You remembered me. I pointed toward the livestock pens. You took 2 pigs. She gestured toward the lacquered box. That contains more than 1 million spirit stones. I'm not selling you the pigs. Serena folded her arms. I'm showing you I didn't need to sell them. I looked behind the pavilion. Where are they? Being fed. I looked behind the pavilion. Both pigs were eating from silver troughs while 3 armored attendants brushed them. The thieves had upgraded the livestock. I looked back at Serena. Better than you were treating the workers? She looked delighted by the accusation. Her guards looked at me like I had just scolded a natural disaster. The woman rose and finally gave me her name. I am Serena Duval, the exiled eldest princess of Westmere, she announced. I lead the survivors now as their empress. We are the Ashen Crown Remnant. Every guard dropped to 1 knee. One captain lowered his head so fast his plume struck the ground. The relief official who had assigned her livestock work appeared near the pavilion entrance. He dropped his work ledger and nearly swallowed his own tongue. Serena waved at him. You gave me excellent work. He looked at me for instructions. I told him, you survived. Leave before she requests another shift. Westmere had fallen. Serena still controlled its surviving soldiers, wealth, and territory. She had worn rags to cross Brighton without announcing a royal visit. Serena stepped beside me. My restoration art only works with a husband I trust. Share power with me, help restore Westmere, and I will place a kingdom at your feet. A golden doorway opened behind her. Beyond it sat a private vault filled with spirit stones, weapons, and sealed chests. The wealth ran into the billions. The first chamber alone could have bought Black Hollow Hall several times. The second held enough weapons to make Regina forget dinner. The third kept going past the light. I looked longer than dignity recommended. Serena tilted her head. You looked at my vault longer than you looked at me. The vault made fewer demands. I can become more demanding. I nodded. I had noticed. She took my hand. Marry me, Austin. The offer included a gorgeous empress, a fallen kingdom, and enough wealth to make Harrison faint professionally. Serena watched my face and smiled with complete confidence. She had seen my appetite, my greed, and the 32 million ring. She expected the billions to finish the argument. I still pulled my hand back. Every kneeling guard stared harder. One glanced at the golden vault, then at me, waiting for greed to win. I disappointed him and impressed Serena. I am married to Olivia. Serena's smile tightened. Political marriages can be shared. Mine became family. Serena studied my face, then glanced at the golden vault. Serena tapped the golden doorway. You refuse billions for her? Yes. Is Olivia more beautiful than me? Serena demanded. I shook my head. That question starts wars. I can win wars. Exactly, I told her, her eyes sharpened with interest instead of anger. Then be my friend. Stepped back. Define friend. Talk to me. Walk with me. Let me borrow your time. Serena lifted 1 finger. 1 million spirit stones each month. I shook my head. No, 2 million. No, I repeated. Serena raised 3 fingers. 3 million. 3 million made me hesitate. Serena saw it happen. There you are, she continued before I recovered. Spend it on Brighton. Fund the refugees, the roads, or whatever public project Harrison is already complaining about. A stronger Brighton can support Westmere later. Harrison could put that money to work by sunset. Dirty move. I set the boundaries aloud. No second marriage, no bedroom claims. You ask before touching me. You do not call me yours behind Olivia's back. Olivia hears the deal from me. Serena repeated each rule without joking. Then she added one of her own. Serena pointed at me. You don't vanish after taking the money. Reserve the right to flee emergencies. You create most emergencies. Then the clause matters, I told her. Serena held out a storage ring. 3 million per month. Conversation, public outings, and whatever affection you willingly surrender. I accepted the ring. Then I felt the exact moment I sold my free time to a second empress. In Brighton, Serena murmured, what do they call a man supported by powerful women? A prince. Her smile said she had found a better answer. As I left the pavilion, one attendant hurried to Serena. Your Majesty, you have met him twice. Serena watched me walk away. He rejected a kingdom for his wife. I have excellent taste. Another attendant whispered that their empress was finished. One attendant dropped a rolled map. Another caught her by the sleeve before she followed me down the road. A third asked whether the restoration plan should still come first. Serena answered, Austin can be both plan and reward. I heard every line from half a mile away. The guards were correct. Serena was completely cooked. That night, in my palace room, Baxter's upgrade finally completed. Light gathered above the spirit stone bed and formed a woman in a fitted black coat. She had silver eyes, long dark hair, and the kind of face designed by somebody with suspiciously specific preferences. I stared. Baxter folded her arms. Upgrade successful. Human avatar enabled. You're a woman, Baxter answered. This form was generated from host preferences. That sounds like slander. Baxter turned once. The black coat shifted with her movement. I forgot the next sentence. She noticed. Master, would you prefer different clothing? Black tights, I answered before caution arrived. Baxter changed the coat into black tights and a shorter jacket. She stepped between me and the window. The protective barrier tightened with her movement. The avatar was also a bodyguard. I lost my argument. Baxter raised one eyebrow. Preference confirmed. In my defense, you asked. You supplied the answer in under 1 second. My own system had caught me staring and logged the answer. I walked around her once. You're still Baxter? The same system. Expanded interface. Improved protection. Improved storage control. I pointed at her. No second assistant hiding inside you? Baxter shook her head. No. Good. My household already had enough women changing the rules. Baxter offered sleep assistance and placed a protective barrier around the room. After the night assassin and Harrison's kidnapping, I accepted. The dream began in a concrete training yard on Earth. I was 6 years old. Children stood in numbered rows while instructors read assassin rankings. I was first. The instructors praised accuracy. They punished hesitation. Nobody asked what the children wanted. A small dog waited behind the barracks. His name was Baxter. He was the only living thing in that place that touched me without trying to train, test, or hurt me. I hid food for him after every exercise. He slept beside the fence while I cleaned weapons too heavy for my hands. The man who raised me found us. He placed a pistol in my hand. Your first mission, my foster father ordered. Kill the dog. Baxter looked up at me. The memory broke before the gun moved. I woke with my hand closed around empty air. The system's avatar sat beside the bed. Baxter had seen the dream through the barrier. I know why you named me, Baxter said. I looked away. Neither of us asked what happened next. The next morning, inside the minister's hall, I placed Serena's first 3 million stone payment on Harrison's table. We are opening an orphanage, I announced. Harrison checked the ring. This covers the building, food, staff, and schooling. He pushed 3 old objections aside and started calling builders before any minister found a fourth. A senior minister objected that a foreign payment could not shape a royal charity. Clifton turned on him before I could. Approve the charter, Clifton ordered. The minister sat so fast his chair scraped. A treasury official asked who had donated the money. Foreign friendship, I answered. McKenna coughed. Bridget looked at the ceiling. Harrison stared at the ring, then deliberately stopped asking questions. Then Clifton entered carrying calming incense. The polished snake who had demanded my execution walked straight to my table and bowed. Prince Austin, Clifton said warmly, your concern for Brighton's children honors the throne. Every minister stopped. Darren stood behind him with cloth covering both eyes. Clifton placed the incense beside me. Please accept this gift. Court pressure can be tiring for the kept man king. The title spread through the room before the smoke did. One minister repeated it under his breath. Another smiled and immediately hid behind a document. Harrison looked offended on my behalf for 3 seconds, then decided the title was accurate. By the time Clifton finished bowing, 2 clerks were already using Kept Man King as a role label on the orphanage notes. I considered objecting. Then Harrison moved Serena's 3 million into the building fund, and I decided the title could earn rent. I smelled the incense twice. No poison, I decided. Clifton's smile tightened. Of course not! McKenna rested a hand on her sword. Three ministers suddenly remembered urgent work near the opposite wall. Clifton publicly supported the orphanage, pushed the remaining objections aside, and praised my talent for attracting resources without labor. He sounded friendly. His left eye twitched through the entire speech. The man had tried to kill me with a book yesterday. Today he had brought incense and a flattering insult. That afternoon, I returned to Serena's camp and asked why Clifton had bowed. Serena took me back to the previous afternoon, while I was returning to the palace. Clifton and Darren had entered through her eastern gate because Clifton wanted the Ashen Crown as a counterweight to Olivia. Darren ruined the meeting before his father finished bowing. He stared at Serena after one guard told him to lower his eyes. Then Darren called her a prize his family could place beside Brighton's throne. Serena lifted one finger. Her guard struck once. Dark pressure crushed Darren to his knees and took his sight. He screamed into both hands while Clifton knelt beside him. Clifton asked for mercy. Serena asked whether his son always treated women like inherited furniture. Darren tried to stand and called me a parasite who had stolen Olivia's seat. Serena's guard pushed him down again. Serena looked at Clifton. Austin is my chosen man. If your faction harms him, I remove your faction. Clifton asked what she wanted. Support him, Serena ordered. Protect his position. Smile when you do it. Darren spat that I had stolen 2 empresses. Serena's guard tightened one hand on his shoulder until he stopped talking. Clifton agreed. He had entered seeking an ally against Olivia. He left working for Olivia's husband. That is what experts call a catastrophic networking event. When Serena finished telling me, she looked proud of herself. I repaired your prime minister, she announced. You threatened him into smiling. He smiles badly. That's a separate defect. Serena leaned toward me. Now will you marry me? Friendship contract. For now, she replied. Serena now had 3 million reasons every month to test how much friendship my marriage could survive. Before the first outing, I told Olivia about Serena's contract in her palace study. My wife read every boundary, set the page down, and looked at me. 3 million a month for conversation? Olivia asked. For an investment. It is dating with invoices, Olivia decided. You will not hide a meeting from me. Her fingers tightened once on the page. I agreed. Over the next 3 weeks, Serena paid me to spend time with her. I called it foreign investment. Harrison called it funding. Serena called it progress. Olivia called it dating with invoices. The rules stayed simple. Serena paid 3 million spirit stones each month. I chose the meetings. She asked before touching me. Every payment went through Harrison into the orphanage or Brighton's public work. Serena obeyed every boundary and pushed the next one immediately. Our first paid outing was a hot spring outside the capital. I entered wearing a full robe, trousers, and boots. Serena stood in the water wearing a dark bathing wrap and looked offended by my commitment to fabric. Austin, Serena complained, the water can't reach you. That's why I kept them on. She stepped closer. You accepted payment for companionship. I'm beside you. You're dressed for a border inspection. I pointed at my boots. In my defense, my wife owns the border. Serena laughed and asked to hold my sleeve. I allowed that much. She moved to my side, hooked one finger through the cloth, and leaned against my shoulder. Does Olivia know where you are? Serena asked. She knows the arrangement. That wasn't my question. I looked toward the palace. She knows enough to become dangerous. Serena looked pleased. Jealousy was apparently another service she believed 3 million should include. You realize boots in a hot spring are criminal, Serena told me. I signed a friendship contract. I never signed a footwear surrender. Spring attendant entered with fruit, saw Serena attached to my sleeve, and backed out without setting down the tray. The rumor reached the palace kitchens before I did. Her first 3 million bought beds, kitchens, and winter clothes for the orphanage. Harrison sent workers before our towels dried. By sunset, children had a roof. Serena had one sleeve. I looked guilty enough to start a palace rumor. Efficient charity. Our second outing happened 4 days later in a private massage pavilion. Serena paid another 3 million before I sat down. This is still conversation, Serena promised. Then she dismissed the attendants and placed both hands on my shoulders. I looked back. You changed the service. You look tense. I have 2 empresses managing my posture. Serena leaned near my ear. Only one is currently improving it. The massage was excellent. That was the problem. I let her work on my shoulders and refused every request involving fewer layers. Serena called me stubborn. I called myself funded. She pressed one knot beneath my neck and asked whether Olivia could do that. Olivia can cut mountains, I answered. Serena smiled. That was not my question. I respected the trap and refused to enter it. Then Serena rested her chin on my shoulder and asked whether that counted as touching. May I continue? Counted the 3 million already sitting in Harrison's hands. For 1 minute! Serena won the minute and smiled through all 60 seconds. That payment finished the orphanage dining hall and put another crew on Brighton's eastern road. I had sold my afternoon for infrastructure. Olivia might still use a sword. Our third outing was a walk through a mountain retreat beyond the city. Serena wore a red traveling dress covered in gold. I noticed. She caught me noticing. In your defense? Serena asked. The dress started it. Good answer. She transferred the next payment and offered her arm. I reminded her about the boundary. Serena raised one eyebrow. May I hold your arm and stand closer? Yes. On permission, rich beggar. May I call Olivia's political marriage unfair? No, I told her. You married an empress to avoid work, Serena replied. Do not become strict now. The third payment funded teachers, medicine, and a play yard for the orphanage. Harrison's messenger reported that the first children had moved into finished dormitories with hot food and teachers already arguing over lesson schedules. Serena read the note over my shoulder. So our dates are helping children, she observed. Our meetings are helping children. Serena folded the note and tucked it into my coat. Keep correcting the word. I enjoy watching you lose. After Harrison confirmed the third payment, Serena stopped walking. She turned toward me. May I steal one kiss? Serena asked. I had enough time to move. One, I told her. She kissed me. The kiss lasted one breath. Serena stepped back looking victorious. Then her eyes narrowed. That was not your first kiss. Olivia smiled. Serena gripped my sleeve. She stole a head start through political fraud. She summoned me onto her bed. That is worse. The second empress had paid millions and still found a way to feel cheated. Beautiful chaos. Serena claimed the rest of the afternoon at the mountain retreat. She kept touching my arm, testing every inch of the permission I had given. She also ordered lunch for two and fed me one bite before I took the plate away. That wasn't in the agreement, I warned. Neither was kissing back. I folded my arms. I didn't sign a confession. You stayed. I reminded her that permission for one kiss did not rewrite the friendship contract. Serena only smiled. Annoyingly strong defense from the rich beggar. That night, inside my palace bedroom, Olivia arrived carrying wine. She had already been drinking. Her steps stayed steady, but her voice sounded tired. Olivia sat beside me and placed the cup on the floor. Stay here tonight, Olivia requested. I looked at her. Did something happen? Olivia shook her head. Everything's loud when I'm alone. She rested her forehead against my shoulder. Only you make it quiet, Olivia whispered. I stayed beside my wife until she slept. When Olivia fell asleep, her hand was still closed around my sleeve. The paid arrangement had become a marriage problem. The next afternoon, Serena and I walked above the Capitol when Baxter warned me about distant attention. 2 observers are measuring Empress Olivia's cultivation, the system reported. One is Prime Minister Clifton. The second man stood beside Clifton on a far ridge. White hair moved around his shoulders while a pale symbol turned above one hand. Serena followed my gaze and lost her smile. That is Orson Thayer, Serena explained. He is a fate seer from Crownspire Pavilion. Crownspire was an old faction with an unhealthy interest in royal bloodlines. Serena knew its people from the records she carried out of Westmere. My hearing caught Orson's voice across the distance. Olivia has gained a year of progress in weeks, Orson told Clifton. That growth should be impossible. The pale symbol above Orson's hand turned toward the palace and stalled. Baxter tried to read it, but the signal folded behind a Crownspire barrier. Clifton looked toward the palace. Can you identify the cause? Orson answered. Not from here. Good. Neither could I. Clifton leaned closer to Orson. The polished snake had found someone willing to keep measuring my wife. A guard approached Serena and reported that Clifton and Orson wanted an audience. Serena kept her arm through mine. Tell them I am occupied. The guard looked at me, understood the message, and bowed. Crownspire had started watching my wife. Serena preferred making them wait while she annoyed me. Priorities I could respect. Before the guard left, Serena handed him a medicine vial. This will restore Darren's eyes, Serena instructed. Give it to Clifton as payment for supporting Austin. Then Serena smiled. Also tell him Austin thinks his smile looks like a creep practicing in a mirror. I said it looked rehearsed, I corrected. Mine is more accurate. The message went out. That evening, in Serena's guest pavilion, the same guard reported back to Serena and me. Darren's sight had returned within minutes. Clifton had tested his son's vision in front of Orson, thanked Serena's guard, and kept smiling while the insult was read aloud. Clifton kept smiling until Serena's guard reached the pavilion gate. Then the incense box cracked loudly behind him. Darren asked who had insulted his father. Before the guard stepped outside, Clifton ordered Darren to stay quiet and keep his restored eyes lowered around Serena. Clifton got his son's sight back and swallowed Serena's insult in front of Orson. Fair trade. Olivia's growth remained unexplained. Crownspire was watching it, and Serena kept buying reasons to stay close. I thought the paid friendship deal was under control. Then Olivia opened a hot spring door and found Serena wrapped around my afternoon. The following afternoon, at the hot spring outside the Capitol, Olivia kicked the private door open. Serena was wrapped around my arm. I was fully dressed. Robe, trousers, boots, dignity, all present. That did not help. Olivia froze the spring before either of us spoke. Ice climbed the walls. The door cracked under her hand. McKenna and Bridget stood behind my wife, both wearing the expressions of witnesses who wanted different assignments. Serena kept one arm hooked through mine. You came sooner than expected. Olivia stepped across the ice. Remove your hands from my husband. Serena leaned closer instead. He approved this hand. Look, there are guilty rooms, and then there was that room. Olivia pointed at McKenna and Bridget. Watch Austin. McKenna glanced at my soaked boots. He appears contained. Bridget folded her arms. The clothing suggests fear. Financial discipline, I corrected. Neither woman respected the distinction. Olivia crossed the room and checked me herself. Her gaze moved from my collar to my boots, then stopped on Serena's fingers. You kept every layer? Olivia asked. Every heroic one, I answered. Serena tapped my sleeve. He treats fabric like a sacred oath. Olivia brushed ice from my shoulder. For once, his cowardice is useful. That tiny touch made Serena's smile sharpen. There it was. My wife had confirmed my innocence and marked her territory in the same motion. Very efficient jealousy. 2 minutes earlier, Olivia had reached the hot spring because the first attendant recognized Serena and sent word to the palace. McKenna and Bridget followed her down the outer hall. Before Olivia opened the door, all three heard Serena arguing with me. Serena splashed water at my boots. Take off one layer. No, I replied. Serena tried again. One boot. No, I repeated. One glove. Serena tried. I'm not wearing gloves, I told her. Serena smiled. Then we're making progress. Serena moved closer and asked permission to hold my arm. I allowed the same contact listed in our contract. Then she pressed against my side and asked for another kiss. One was the agreement, I reminded her. Serena smiled. Agreements can be upgraded. Olivia reads every upgrade, I warned her. Outside the door, my wife heard the whole refusal. So Olivia knew I had kept the boundaries. She also watched Serena cling to me through a cracked screen. Fair innocence still looked terrible in a hot spring. Back in the frozen room, McKenna covered her mouth when I explained the contract. I'm making money, I told Olivia. McKenna failed first. She laughed into her fist. Bridget lasted 3 seconds longer. Your Highness, this may be the worst financial defense ever attempted. I funded an orphanage, I reminded them. Olivia looked at Serena's arm. With your sleeve? Serena answered for me. The sleeve was complimentary. Olivia's eyes narrowed. You bought his time, stole a kiss, and dragged him into a bath. He wore boots, Serena replied. I suffered too. Olivia looked at me. You told me every meeting would be disclosed. This one was on the schedule, I answered. Olivia tapped the frozen floor. The schedule said afternoon discussion. Serena spread one hand toward the spring. We discussed his terrible bathing habits. McKenna turned toward Bridget. Does this count as diplomacy? Bridget watched Olivia's power crack the floor. It counts as our evacuation warning. Serena lifted her chin. He chose Olivia as his wife. I know that. Olivia's expression softened for half a second. Then Serena added, he also chose to kiss me. The softness died immediately. Honestly, Serena could find the one loose board in any peaceful conversation and jump on it with both feet. My wife turned toward me. Austin, stay there. I looked at the ice around my legs. Your order has strong support. Then Olivia faced Serena. You offered him wealth because you could not earn his loyalty, Olivia said. Serena released my arm and stepped onto the ice. You summoned him because you could not keep your throne without a husband. Olivia's jaw tightened. Serena continued. I asked him to choose me. You dropped him onto your bed before introductions. Olivia raised one finger. That was a summoning circle. Serena answered. In your bedroom. Olivia's power brightened. Political necessity. Romantic kidnapping, Serena decided. Olivia's golden power spread through the frozen spring. Serena's dark pressure answered. I stepped between them. We could settle this over lunch. Both empresses told me to move. Same word, same timing. Terrible sign. The ice exploded beneath us. McKenna grabbed my left arm. Bridget grabbed my right. They pulled me through the doorway as Olivia and Serena launched through the roof. The hot spring followed them upward in a storm of broken ice. Retreat attendants ran down the mountain carrying towels, fruit trays, and one chair nobody needed. Nobody asked why. 2 empresses were tearing open the sky. Nobody needed an explanation. You know a private argument is over when the towels evacuate first. McKenna planted the survival talisman over the courtyard. Its shield expanded around us. Bridget pulled 3 stunned attendants inside before the first wave hit. The guardrail shattered behind them. The duel had already turned a private scandal into a regional weather event. Outside, above the mountain retreat, my wife and the second empress stopped pretending this was an argument. Olivia began in the 9th realm. Serena was already in the 10th. That one-step gap meant Serena could overpower Olivia directly. The first collision proved it. Olivia formed a golden blade and drove forward. Serena caught it against a black barrier, turned her shoulder, and kicked Olivia across the sky. Olivia struck a ridge hard enough to split it. McKenna drew her sword below us. Should we help? Bridget watched Serena erase Olivia's second attack. With what? McKenna offered. Encouragement? I raised one hand. Nobody enters that air. McKenna looked at me. You could stop them. I could also explain myself afterward, I told her. She lowered her sword. Right, impossible battle. Serena moved first again. Olivia tried to seize the pace. She drove 3 golden cuts upward, forcing Serena to block instead of attack. The first cut cracked Serena's barrier. The second pushed her back. The third nearly reached her shoulder. Serena's smile vanished. Then she stopped treating Olivia like an angry wife and started treating her like an enemy. Dark barriers appeared around Olivia and closed from 4 sides. Olivia cut through one. Serena came through the opening and drove an elbow into her guard. Olivia fell, caught herself, and attacked from below. Serena bent backward, let the blade pass, then struck Olivia's shoulder with 2 fingers. Golden armor cracked. My wife hit the ground on one knee. Below us, McKenna pressed both hands against the talisman. The shield buckled under the shock. Bridget took the other side and shouted for the attendants to stay down. Serena had won the exchange. The cost landed on everyone beneath it. I tightened my hand once. One strike from me would have ended the danger. It also would have ended Olivia's belief that I was merely an unusual husband with suspicious luck. So I stayed still and hated every second. Serena hovered above her. Yield! Olivia rose. Serena's neck slash opened the mountain behind her. Olivia blocked it, but the impact forced blood from the corner of her mouth. The rivalry had stopped being funny. Baxter appeared beside me in her dark-clad avatar. Only I could see her unless she chose otherwise. Master, Baxter warned, Empress Olivia's energy is dangerously overfilled. I watched Serena strike again. Golden light burst from Olivia's skin instead of staying trapped inside her. Baxter tracked the release. Each impact is forcing excess energy through her channels. The pressure was already building before this fight. That explained Olivia's impossible growth. It also meant interrupting too early could leave the overload inside her. I hated the answer. I let the fight continue. Serena surrounded Olivia with 6 illusions. Every copy attacked from a different angle. Olivia blocked 2, dodged 1, and took the 4th strike across her back. The last 2 were false. Serena appeared above her and drove her toward the ground. The mountain shook. Then Baxter's gaze moved beyond the battlefield. 27 hostile signatures, she reported. Around the retreat, thin silhouettes had appeared on distant ridges, trees, and clouds. Baxter counted them one by one inside my mind. 7 on the northern ridge, 6 hidden among the pines, 8 above the cloud line, 6 spread behind the retreat. 27 total, a complete kill circle. They kept outside the duel's light. Their weapons faced inward. The clash had drawn predators from higher realms. They were waiting for both women to weaken. One watcher raised a hand. The other 26 shifted with him. I read the formation. They were waiting for jealousy to weaken both women before closing the ring. I marked every heartbeat and stayed beside McKenna. If I moved too early, the watchers would scatter. If I waited too long, Olivia and Serena would become targets from every direction. So I waited for the weapons to rise. Above us, Serena caught Olivia by the wrist and threw her across the valley. Olivia broke through 3 rock walls before stopping. Serena landed in front of her. You cannot protect him from me. Olivia pushed herself upright. Serena raised her blade. Yield, and I will clear the excess energy from your body. Keep fighting, and you may destroy yourself. Olivia looked past her toward me. The battlefield went quiet enough for her voice to carry. Austin came to Brighton alone, Olivia told Serena. So did I, even with a palace around me. Serena lowered her blade by 1 inch. Olivia continued. He stayed when he could have left. He gave me a family that was mine by choice. She straightened despite the broken armor. He is my husband. I will not surrender him. Golden energy erupted from Olivia's body. The remaining excess tore through every cracked channel at once. Serena jumped back as a pillar of light split the clouds. Armor formed around Olivia in bright plates. A golden dragon uncoiled behind her and opened its eyes. The whole valley bowed under the pressure. Olivia had reached the 10th realm. The breakthrough pushed one clean wave across the valley. McKenna's talisman stopped shaking. Cracks in Olivia's armor closed under fresh gold. Serena lowered her weapon for one breath and looked at Olivia with real respect. Then both women remembered the argument. McKenna forgot to breathe. Bridget lowered her sword. She advanced during a marriage dispute. I watched my wife rise beside the dragon. Very efficient woman. Serena's surprise lasted 1 second. Then she smiled. Good, Serena called. Now stop hiding behind the realm gap. Olivia lifted her blade. You first! Serena released her full power. Dark wings of energy opened behind her. Every illusion sharpened. The sky between both women twisted under equal force. Serena had lost effortless control. My wife had made the second Empress go all in. The 27 watchers chose that moment to attack. Their weapons flashed at the perimeter. I stepped away from McKenna. Stay beside Bridget, I ordered. McKenna caught my sleeve. Where are you going? To stop an interruption, I answered. I vanished before she could answer. The first watcher used the duel to hide his movement, his weapon aimed at Serena's back from Olivia's side of the valley. The angle would leave my wife carrying the blame. He never saw me cross the ridge. I struck once and moved before his body fell. The second watcher had already released a blade of light toward Olivia. I caught it, turned it upward, and reached him before he could react. 3 watchers tried to scatter. I heard their blood change direction before their feet moved. They disappeared across 3 separate ridges. The remaining attackers abandoned stealth and fired together. Their attacks formed a ring around the valley. Each strike covered the escape path of the next man. Against anyone local, it was disciplined work. Against me, it was 27 people volunteering their exact positions. I crossed the circle faster than their weapons could close. Their weapons tracked a wounded empress and an exhausted rival. Nobody turned toward the useless husband moving behind them. 27 hostile signatures became 0. No blast reached the retreat. No warning reached Olivia. The duel continued across the sky while the second battlefield ended underneath it. Then I looked at my hands. Blood marked my fingers. The mountain retreat vanished from my senses. For one short second, I smelled the concrete training yard on Earth. I heard numbered children moving into lines. My body waited for the next command. Baxter appeared in front of me and caught my wrist. "Austin," Baxter said. Her voice used my name, not my title. "You are in Brighton. You chose this fight. Nobody ordered you." I focused on her hand. Baxter continued. "Olivia is alive. Serena is alive. McKenna and Bridget are waiting." The training yard released me. I wiped my hands on a dead watcher's robe and returned to the retreat. McKenna had barely finished turning toward the ridge. McKenna frowned. "You left." "I walked quickly," I told her. Bridget looked at my clean hands, then at the empty perimeter. She understood enough to stop asking. Above us, Olivia's dragon crashed into Serena's illusions. Both empresses were alive. Both were stronger. Both were still furious. I had removed 27 assassins without exposing myself. Now I needed to stop my wife and Serena without using the strength that could end the fight. Above us, both women turned toward the capital side of the valley and raised their weapons again. The next exchange would fall over Brighton's outer farms. Seconds after I returned to the ruined hot spring retreat, Olivia's golden dragon tore through Serena's last illusion wall. Serena answered with a black blade that split the dragon's tail. Both women were exhausted. Neither had developed common sense. Olivia hovered above the ruined retreat in cracked golden armor. Serena faced her with one dark wing flickering behind her. Serena looked Olivia over. "Your new armor is dramatic." Olivia lifted her blade. "You needed 6 illusions to look impressive. My illusions have better posture. Your real body needs the help." There it was, 2 10th realm empresses, 1 broken valley, and the argument had reached petty appearance insults. McKenna pressed both hands against the survival talisman. "They're running out of power!" Bridget watched another ridge collapse. "The mountain is running out first!" Olivia charged. Serena met her halfway. Their weapons struck once, and the retreat's remaining windows blew inward. Olivia's dragon wrapped around Serena's barrier and squeezed. Cracks raced across the dark surface. Serena split into 12 copies before the barrier failed. Every copy pointed at Olivia. "Which one looks better?" Serena called. Olivia cut through 11 illusions. "The silent one!" The real Serena appeared above her and drove both feet into Olivia's guard. Olivia caught the strike, spun, and threw Serena into the cloud line. For one glorious second, my wife had the upper hand. Then Serena turned the cloud itself into a field of black blades. McKenna expanded the talisman shield again. Bridget dragged the last attendants behind a stone wall. The blades fell around us, slicing trees and tearing open the road. Bridget looked at the capital beyond the ridge. "Another exchange like that reaches the outer farms!" Their romantic argument was one exchange from Brighton's outer farms. I shouted both names. Olivia ignored me. Serena heard me and attacked harder. I tried again. "The watchers are gone. You can stop now." Olivia drove Serena through a cloud. "She can stop." Serena reappeared behind her. "Your husband asked you first." "Wonderful. My peace offer had become ammunition." McKenna looked at me. "Use pressure." "That exposes too much," I told McKenna. Bridget pointed at the sky. "Then use marriage." I stared at her. The widowed commander shrugged. "Both women keep trying to catch your attention. Give it to them." Bridget had just proposed emotional sabotage against 2 empresses. Honestly, solid plan. I flew above the retreat and moved between them. Serena's blades halted around my body. Olivia's dragon reared behind me. Both women had enough control to avoid me. Neither had enough patience to listen. Olivia stopped her blade 1 foot from my shoulder. Serena's dark barrier closed around my back. "Enough," I ordered. Both women answered at once. "Move." I did move. Straight down. I released every trace of support beneath my feet, threw my arms wide and let myself fall. I also let my breathing go shallow and rolled one shoulder like something had struck me. Cheap acting, effective audience. Olivia, I called. My wife's face changed. Serena's did too. Both empresses abandoned the duel. Olivia reached me from the left, Serena reached me from the right. Each caught one arm before I dropped 20 feet. The golden dragon vanished. Serena's illusions vanished. The entire battle stopped because gravity had apparently defeated the strongest man present. Beautiful. I was ashamed of how well it worked. You know a plan is desperate when gravity becomes the best diplomat. Olivia pulled me against her. Are you hurt? Serena checked my chest and shoulders. Where did the attack land? I opened one eye. Emotionally everywhere. Both women went still. McKenna covered her face below us. Bridget muttered, "He chose fraud." I smiled at Olivia. "Your armor looks incredible." Then I turned towards Serena. "Your wings were also very impressive. That was my mistake." Olivia released my arm. Serena released the other. I dropped the remaining 6 feet and landed on my back. Olivia folded her arms. "You pretended to fall." "I prevented regional damage," I told Olivia. Serena landed beside her. "Then you complimented both of us." "I was de-escalating," I told Serena. "You were shopping for forgiveness," Olivia decided. I offered Olivia jewelry. Olivia told me to keep it and explain why Serena deserved the same compliment. I offered Serena a new hot spring. Serena said I could drown in it, then asked why Olivia's armor received the first compliment. I tried offering both women separate palaces. Olivia called that bribery. Serena called it insufficient bribery. They had reunited through shared disappointment in me. Progress, technically. The rivalry had ended. My approval rating had gone with it. Below us, the retreat attendants began cheering because the sky had stopped attacking them. Then they saw both empresses point at me. The cheering died. One attendant carried my wet boots to McKenna and asked whether the prince had lost a war. McKenna answered, "A domestic one." Olivia pointed toward the road. "You are not sleeping in my room tonight." Serena lifted her chin. "You are also banned from my guest pavilion." I looked between them. "I saved both of you," Olivia answered. "You manipulated both of us," Serena added. "Badly." McKenna came over and patted my shoulder. "Congratulations, Austin. You saved the valley and lost every bedroom." Bridget lifted one hand. "He can use my spare room near the city wall." Olivia and Serena both heard her. Neither objected. Found family support. Ruthless as ever. That night, at Bridget's damaged house near the city wall, I lay on a thin futon beneath a patched ceiling. One side of the house still carried cracks from the earlier poison attack. Bridget had offered me the only intact room, then left for night duty before palace gossip found me. Baxter appeared beside the futon in her dark avatar. "Sleep assistance is available," she offered. "No," I said. The blood trigger had passed. I still wanted to remain awake and choose the moment myself. Baxter nodded once and sat by the door. Near midnight, someone knocked 3 times. I opened the door and found Olivia holding a covered tray. My wife wore a plain cloak over her sleeping robe. No guards, no wine. Her face was calm enough to be dangerous. "I came to continue your punishment," Olivia announced. I lifted the tray cover. Roasted meat, noodles, and sweet cakes filled the dishes. "Cruel," I agreed. "I may never recover." Olivia entered and kicked the door closed behind her. She sat on the edge of the futon. "You embarrassed me." "Prevented a war," I answered. Olivia pointed at my shoulder. "You pretended to be injured." "You both stopped," I reminded her. Olivia pulled the blanket from beneath me and folded it with aggressive precision. "I heard you reject Serena before I opened the door." I waited. Olivia's fingers tightened around the blanket. "I knew you had kept the agreement. I still hated seeing her hold you." That was the honest version. She gave it to me without a throne or audience. I moved the food tray closer to her. "Then be angry. Just keep the mountain count lower next time." Olivia frowned. "She started it." "You froze the building," I reminded her. Olivia looked away. The door was already weak. My war goddess had returned to revise the evidence. I sat beside her. "I could not stop either of you with force." Olivia looked back at me. "You could have trusted me with more." I did not answer quickly. She opened the food and placed a bowl between us. "Feed me," Olivia ordered. "That sounds like forgiveness," I told Olivia. "It's surveillance," Olivia replied. I picked up the chopsticks and offered her one bite. Olivia ate without looking away from me. I offered another. She leaned closer this time. The room had become very small. In my defense, my wife had arrived after midnight wearing silk and demanding food from my hand. The situation had opinions. I reached for a third bite. The chopstick slipped from my fingers and landed under the futon. Olivia looked at the empty hand, then at me. "That was deliberate." "Unproven," I replied. Olivia pointed under the futon. "You can catch arrows in darkness." "Chopsticks are unpredictable," I told her. Olivia's mouth curved. "I lifted one piece of food. May I feed you another way?" She understood immediately. Olivia held my gaze. "One bite. I decide when it ends." I nodded. She accepted the food from my mouth. The contact lasted one breath, exactly as agreed. Olivia pulled back first, cheeks warm, victory obvious. I reached for another piece. Olivia caught my wrist. "One bite. You set the rule," I reminded her. Olivia nodded. I remember. She took the next piece with the recovered chopsticks and fed me instead. Punishment complete, she said. Then the door opened. Serena stood outside carrying 6 wine pots. The rich beggar looked from Olivia's face to the food between us. You banished him, Serena accused. Olivia covered the tray. I came to supervise his punishment. Serena pointed at the tray. With noodles? Olivia answered. He fears hunger. Serena entered and set the wine down. Then I will supervise too. I looked at the 6 pots. That appears less responsible. Serena sat across from Olivia. We need a contest that does not destroy geography. Olivia glanced at the patched wall. Agreed. Serena pushed a cup toward her. Wine. My wife accepted. That was how 2 empresses replaced aerial combat with competitive drinking in Bridget's spare room. The rule was simple. They challenged each other's claim. Whoever failed to answer, drank. I poured because both women decided the disputed husband should provide service. Serena began. I paid for 3 private afternoons, Olivia answered. I share his palace, title, and bed. Serena drank. Olivia followed. He gave me his first kiss. Serena smiled. He gave me permission for mine. Olivia drank. Serena leaned toward me. Who looked better at the hot spring? I filled both cups. Excellent question. Drink together. They made me drink instead. Terrible court system. The cups kept moving. Serena cooled her wine into a perfect crystal cup and called it refined control. Olivia heated the cup until the wine steamed and called Serena delicate. Serena froze my cup. Olivia warmed it without looking. Even my drink had chosen a side. Serena drank without blinking, then froze Olivia's next cup to the table. Olivia cut the table around it and lifted the whole piece. Bridget's furniture was losing another war. I replaced the table with an overturned storage chest before either woman noticed. Olivia boasted that I had chosen Brighton as family. Serena answered that I accepted her money because I respected her cause. Serena claimed I smiled during our kiss. Olivia claimed I forgot how to speak when she entered in armor. Both claims were unfortunately supported. I poured myself a cup before they compared more evidence. The witness invokes silence. Both women rejected my legal strategy. Olivia asked who I trusted with Brighton. I named her. Serena asked who I trusted with Westmere's restoration money. I named her. They stared at each other, each pleased and offended by the split verdict. Whenever one woman lost a point, she demanded another cup and changed the rules. Soon, the 6 pots became 8 because Serena pulled 2 more from storage. The verbal fight stayed sharp, but the anger thinned. Near dawn, under the tree outside Bridget's house, Olivia stopped mid-boast. She stared into her cup. My parents vanished, Olivia said. My brothers died before I took the throne. Every room in the palace still carries someone who is gone. Serena lowered her wine. Olivia continued. I built Brighton because ruling was the only thing left that needed me. No one joked. Serena sat beside her. My parents killed each other, Serena said. My siblings are gone. Westmere fell, and everyone who survived expects me to rebuild it. Her voice stayed steady until the last word. Then it failed. Olivia reached for her. Serena held on. The women who had tried to cut each other from the sky cried beneath the same tree. Olivia tightened her hold. Serena stopped pulling away. I carried them inside without interrupting. Olivia held Serena's sleeve. Serena kept one hand closed around Olivia's wrist. I placed them on the bed, covered them, and removed every wine pot from reach. Baxter helped clean the room while saying nothing. The next morning, sunlight reached the bed before either empress woke. Olivia and Serena were tangled in the same blanket. They opened their eyes at the same time, turned, and accidentally kissed. Both women froze. Then they separated so fast the bed frame cracked. You kissed me, Olivia snapped. Serena wiped her mouth. You attacked while I was unconscious. You were on my side. You stole the blanket. The grief bond survived exactly 8 seconds before pride restarted the war. I retreated to the kitchen and made instant noodles. At breakfast, Olivia and Serena competed over my bowl. Serena reached for the seat beside me. Olivia moved it to her own side before Serena touched it. Serena dragged the second chair against my other shoulder. I ate between 2 empresses who had reached a temporary peace and immediately weaponized seating. You know peace is fragile when chairs become ammunition. Olivia added meat and called it proper palace food. Serena added a rare herb and called Olivia's meat peasant seasoning. I ate both before they could weaponize breakfast. Then Olivia looked at Serena across the table. You will move into the palace, Olivia decided. Serena blinked. You are inviting me? You are alone here, Olivia replied. Also, I refuse to let you schedule secret meetings with my husband. Serena smiled. Compassion with surveillance, very royal. Olivia looked at the empty guest seat across the table. You said Westmere left you alone. I have rooms. Use one. Serena's smile softened. Then Olivia added, far from Austin's room. Serena's softness became a smirk. There she is. Olivia pointed her chopsticks. Accept before I improve the offer. Serena pulled the chair closer. I accept. The second empress had joined my household. I looked toward Baxter. Did you record any of this? Baxter answered. Recording began before the hot spring door opened. Traitorous assistant, excellent archive. Serena's smile faded as breakfast ended. She looked at Olivia and tapped one finger against the table. Now that I am living in your palace, Serena said, you need to see what Crownspire built around your family. Later that morning, inside Olivia's palace dining room, Serena returned from the guest wing with a piece of pale jade. She placed it between Olivia and me and stopped smiling. This is innate jade, Serena explained. Westmere preserved it because it records bloodline history that ordinary archives cannot hold. The jade reacted when Olivia touched it. Light spread across the table and built a small image of Brighton in the air. Serena sat beside my wife. Some worlds lose too much heavenly law. Those broken worlds become desolate domains. The projected sky above Brighton cracked into dark lines. Serena pointed at the breaks. When enough law disappears, the strongest faction can define borders, records, and inheritance inside the gap. The image showed old maps fading beneath newer copies. Every copy placed Brighton in a different century. Only the current one matched the palace around us. Olivia touched her coronation seal inside the projection. The seal broke into blank light. Her memory was real. The official history around it had been arranged. A powerful faction can rewrite records inside one, Serena continued. Crownspire, the faction whose seer watched your growth, did that here. The palace image changed. A line of rulers appeared above it. Half had no graves, and several had childhood records that contradicted their portraits. Buildings and names swapped across the royal archive. Olivia stared at the shifting capital. You are saying Brighton's history was edited? Manufactured, Serena answered. The throne, the royal line, and the official past were built around one project. My wife had ruled Brighton through war, poison, and court rebellion. Now a piece of jade called her empire, a stage set. Olivia kept her hand on the table. Show me the project! The jade obeyed her blood. The capital vanished. A dragon crystal appeared inside the light. It cracked open and revealed a baby. Serena pointed at the child. That baby became your father. Olivia's chair scraped backward. Serena continued one fact at a time. Crownspire found the crystal. A demon faction and an Eastern empire joined the project. The three groups raised the child inside a life they controlled. They gave him a throne, selected his allies, and built a false royal history around his blood. They wanted his bloodline to mature inside a controlled family. 2 royal heirs died inside that plan. The jade showed empty cradles, then erased them. Olivia's fingers closed around the table edge. The projection shifted again. The dragon child became a grown man. A crown appeared over his head. Then unseen hands moved his wife, children, ministers, and enemies around him. Olivia watched her father's life turn into a controlled diagram. A small point of light appeared inside an image of Olivia's body. Serena's voice stayed steady. An innate embryo has awakened inside you. Olivia looked at the light. Serena explained the rule plainly. The embryo would pull Brighton's accumulated destiny into itself. Every city, army, field, and living person would feed it. When the process finished, the empire would die. Olivia might die with it. The projection demonstrated the cost. Light rose from farms, houses, and soldiers across the tiny map. Every strand entered the embryo. One city dimmed, then another. Olivia pulled her hand from the jade. The strands kept moving toward her image. No one spoke. The jade kept turning above the table. I took Olivia's hand. Her skin was cold. How long? I asked. Serena shook her head. The records do not give a safe date. It awakened earlier than Crownspire expected. That made Olivia's sudden growth more dangerous. Power was rising because something inside her had started feeding. Olivia looked across the projected empire. My people were born inside this plan. They still chose you, I told her. Olivia's eyes moved to me. I continued. Crownspire built the cage. Brighton filled it with real families. She held my hand tighter. Then Serena touched the jade again. Your parents may have escaped, Serena said. The third projection appeared. The projection showed Olivia's father beside a woman's outline. A silver hand tore open space and pulled them beyond the recorded domain. The record ends there, Serena explained. It does not show their deaths. Olivia leaned toward the light. So they could be alive, somewhere beyond this domain, Serena answered. Olivia reached for the image. Her fingers passed through it. The jade changed one last time and showed a dragon falling beneath a mountain. Its body melted into the land. Serena pointed at the ridge above it. That became Brighton Ridge. The dragon's blood had soaked into the soil and water for generations. That explained the oversized pigs, violent chickens, and spirit-rich fish raised around the ridge. I stared at the projection. So my expensive pigs were dragon-fed. Serena gave me a flat look. That is your conclusion. It's one conclusion, I admitted. Olivia laughed once through wet eyes. Good. The room needed air, and the pigs had finally contributed something besides invoices. You can judge my priorities after the Empire survives. I turned back to my wife. Your father escaped their control, I said. Your parents may still be alive. We will find them. The image returned to the dragon child. Olivia watched it fade. He never had a real throne. He found a family anyway, I answered. Then I added, he also received the premium kept man package before me. I respect the pioneer. Olivia squeezed my hand hard enough to punish the joke. Until we found the embryo's answer, Olivia needed enough strength to resist it. I needed the people who built it to stop touching her life. Serena almost smiled. Then Olivia named a date that connected the three of us. Olivia told us she had nearly died 4 years earlier during the struggle that put her on the throne. Her enemies had sealed the palace and cut her away from the guards. A silver light broke one wall long enough for Regina to reach her. Serena's expression changed. I nearly died that same year. Her enemies had trapped her during Westmere's fall. A silver force opened a path through their formation and gave her enough time to escape. Neither woman had seen the source clearly. Both remembered the same cold light and the same feeling of being pulled away from death. I remembered my own hunt on Earth. 4 years earlier, before the final guild chase, a silver-haired woman had appeared during an ambush. She cut open a path through people who had trained beside me and disappeared before I could follow. I never saw her name, I said. Her eyes looked like Olivia's. Olivia leaned closer. I studied Serena. Her eyebrows looked like Serena's. Both women stared at me. Olivia narrowed her eyes. You remember her face very clearly. Serena folded her arms. Especially the attractive parts. I was describing evidence, I protested. Olivia replied, you began with her hair. She had silver hair, I reminded her. Serena smiled. He is defending the mystery woman now. A possible link across worlds had become another flirting charge. My household was operational. Baxter made her dark avatar visible beside the table. I can explain Empress Olivia's growth, Baxter said. A set of readings formed above her palm. Baxter called the rule soul affinity. Trust, repeated protection, and sustained proximity let a body accept more energy. It granted no control and forced no emotion. Olivia's reading burned highest. Serena's formed below it, still enormous. Our repeated choices under pressure had accelerated Olivia's growth and started affecting Serena too. Baxter showed one extra line. Protection moved the score faster than simple proximity. That explained why every crisis had fed Olivia's growth. Then Harrison's stored reading appeared at 90%. Serena tapped her own reading. Mine will rise. Olivia moved the display farther from her, from another wing of the palace. I stared at it. My chef trusts me more than either empress? Olivia looked offended. Serena looked personally challenged by a middle-aged cook. Baxter clarified. Minister Harrison's score comes from family loyalty, repeated protection, shared resources, and food. I nodded at the reading. Food-based attachment is the strongest framework here. That joke ended when Baxter pointed back to the embryo. Affinity explains the growth, Baxter said. It does not remove the threat. The project began roughly a century ago. Reaching its original architects may require travel through time or another domain. Olivia looked at the projected child again. Serena closed her hand around the innate jade. The current Crownspire branch still guards the records and the harvest plan. That gave me someone reachable. Does everyone in the current branch know? I asked Serena. No, Serena answered. Some inherited the institution. The inner elders guard the project. I would give the branch a chance to separate ignorance from choice. I stood. Olivia caught my sleeve. Austin? I am not leaving yet, I told her. That was true for the next several hours. By sunset, Olivia had forced the jade through every image twice. The embryo kept glowing. Her parents' trail ended beyond the domain. The silver-haired woman stayed nameless. Olivia set the jade down. Serena opened the wine. I stayed until both women fell asleep beside the jade, one on the couch and one across the bed. Olivia's hand still rested over the image of her parents. Serena had fallen asleep holding the map to Crownspire. That was when I moved. Near midnight, inside Olivia's palace room, I summoned McKenna and Bridget. McKenna arrived in armor. Bridget entered with her sword already drawn. I handed them the room. Guard Olivia and Serena, I ordered. Nobody enters, nobody follows me. McKenna looked at the sleeping empresses, then at the paired jade key in my hand. McKenna asked, Where are you going? Crownspire, I answered. I opened Serena's map. Which mountain holds their branch? McKenna pointed to a northern route used by military couriers. This one. Crownspire controls the summit. Bridget lowered her sword by 1 inch. For a conversation. I'm offering them 2 chances to correct their crimes, I told Bridget. McKenna stared at me. You buried kidnappers under a mountain. They had chances, I told McKenna. Bridget counted on her fingers. Crimson Tower went under a lake. The Poison Elder lost 3 mountains. Black Hollow Hall went through portals. Different circumstances, I told Bridget. McKenna looked at Bridget. Crownspire is cooked. I pointed at her. This is why you are staying here. McKenna lifted her chin. Because I'm correct? Because you enjoy destruction too much, I answered. Bridget nodded. Completely. Their confidence in my mercy was insulting and evidence-based. I took Serena's map, Olivia's jade key, and left before either woman could volunteer. Before dawn, at the foot of Crownspire's mountain branch, I heard voices through the stone. My hearing reached the summit before I did. An unnamed elder stood inside the upper hall. A guard reported that Olivia's pretty-faced husband had arrived alone carrying her jade. The elder laughed. Another man warned that Olivia's jade should have remained inside the royal vault. The elder dismissed him. The pretty-faced husband probably stole it to look important. Make him climb, the elder ordered. If he wants answers, he can crawl to them. Then the elder spoke to the people around him. The Dragon Project has matured for a century, he said. Every law and royal succession pushed the bloodline where we needed it. The embryo woke early, but the harvest can still succeed. Another voice asked what would happen to Olivia. The elder answered without hesitation. Refine the host and embryo into an elixir. My daughter will take it and bear the pure bloodline herself. Several elders voiced agreement. Nobody objected. The elder had heard the cost and approved the harvest anyway. I stood below the first stair and decided on 2 chances. 1 chance to recognize the crime, 1 chance to correct it. A gatekeeper opened the mountain path and looked down at my royal clothes. Crownspire forbids flight, he announced. Climb for 1 hour if you want the elder's attention. Could have reached the summit before his next breath. Instead, I suppressed my power and walked. Every stair counted. Every minute counted. The gatekeeper followed far enough to enjoy the humiliation. He called me Olivia's decorative husband and asked whether my legs were tired. Halfway up, he offered to carry the jade if I admitted the Empress had sent me to beg. My wife sent me nowhere, I told him. He laughed harder. I kept climbing. Look, I was trying to be fair. The performance deserved an award. 1 hour later, I reached the summit. The elder waited in the main hall with his followers arranged behind him. He looked at the jade key, then at me. His followers did the same calculation Crownspire had trusted for a century. Olivia's husband had no visible cultivation. He had climbed instead of flying. He had arrived without soldiers. Several elders relaxed. One laughed before the leader even spoke. They had called me the useless husband again. Perfect. They had built a nation around a dragon bloodline and still misread the harmless husband standing in their hall. So the useless prince finally arrived, the elder said. Did your empress send you to beg for her history? I stopped before his seat. You already wasted your first chance, I told him. The elder's smile thinned. For making you climb? For making your answer before hearing the question? He looked at the followers behind him. Several smiled on command. For believing humiliation changes truth, I added. He leaned back. You know nothing about truth. I placed Olivia's jade key on the stone floor. The sound was small. Every smile behind the elder disappeared anyway. I nudged the key toward his seat. Olivia trusted me with the family you fabricated. Crownspire found a dragon child and built Brighton around him. The elder stopped moving. You rewrote the royal records. You used a demon faction and an Eastern Empire to control his life. Nobody behind him spoke. You killed 2 royal heirs inside the project. You planted an innate embryo in Olivia and expected it to consume Brighton's destiny. The elder's fingers tightened on his chair. I took 1 step closer. You also plan to refine my wife into an elixir so your daughter can steal the bloodline. His confidence disappeared. The plan had survived a century because every victim knew only one piece. Olivia's useless husband had walked in carrying all of them. You have 1 chance left, I told him. The elder froze.